was it called? Regular thing, just the two of us. Can't fucking find it right now. And we're live on the Sports Hall. Hey guys! I don't think anyone's in right now. We got 3 people on my side. Do you have a TikTok connected on this one?
Sorry?
Do you have TikTok connected to that?
Yeah, but remember, it doesn't show unless you figured out how to connect it now to the chat.
I think it's blocking it on purpose. TikTok does that, or it just blocks on purpose. And so does Instagram, because they like to be cranky. Are you sure? Because I went over to your thing now and there's nothing live on it.
It says it up on the top right.
Oh, does it? All right.
Oh, no, it says offline. Streaming not allowed. What?
Yeah, it does that, doesn't it? I tried it with my side as well, and it wasn't ticking. But it says it's something's functioning anyway.
Oh, not approved or revoked.
Oh, revoked. Yeah, TikTok is cranky, isn't it?
What? Yeah, I've requested it, but unfortunately, it's not going to happen tonight.
I requested my one as well, but it wouldn't accept my one either. But I haven't really played around with it too much. I just kind of sent the basic stuff at it, and it was like, no. Oh, we already have boys coming in here. I'm here. I stopped by if I'm welcome. Of course, Jim, you're welcome. Probably one of the few people that are welcome at this stage.
I don't know. I've got some of my regulars here, which is nice to see. Kat, Dave, Ossery overseas. So it's I think Ossery is on your channel more, but it's great to see you all. We just found out that we're not connected to TikTok, and TikTok would have normally the most questions, so that could make for an interesting live.
A wee bit quieter than usual, like, because TikTok is where all the mad stuff is going on. Like, I wouldn't mind. I literally customized this for TikTok, like.
But yeah, no, it's just it revoked me. But I have so many problems with TikTok. They kick me off all the time. I don't know. It's they're just not happy with the lives that I've been doing recently.
What do you do, like?
No, I've just been given slideshow lectures, but for my members, but they're not happy with it. I guess they want more visual. Maybe I need to like put my face. Like maybe I need a camera.
What was it called? Yeah, Jim, definitely subscribe over to Michael. He covers more of your stuff, Jim. Jim, I thought you'd be subscribed to Michael earlier, actually, because Mike covers more O'Neill stuff than me. But Jim O'Neill is a northern fella like yourself. I thought Jim O'Neill would be subscribed to you faster, to be honest.
I know. There's links to he has links to County Down, doesn't he? Or Armagh, definitely one of the southern Ulster things. So I'm a little bit offended. Actually, unsubscribe.
How is everyone today? We can always start off. I think Jim, because the plan is tonight is that people just go into the comment section and start yapping about the family, and then we just kind of elaborate it, especially from my view of a medieval perspective, because I have pictures and everything. I spent the last, I woke up this morning, well, just 2 hours ago, and I was like pure in the clan mood, so I just started chucking, as I have whole load of pictures here, and I just start chucking in as many pictures as possible. Can you, on the left side, can you see all those pictures and stuff?
Can I?
Yeah. Like, can you see on this? Like, can you see that beforehand, or does it just randomly pop up?
Just randomly pops up.
Man, I have dozens and dozens. I spent the whole last 2 hours just cramming this with as many clan photos as I could get, like, you know. I planned for, I don't specialize in family clans. Like, I specialize more on the history side of it when it comes down to clothing and military and how the, what was it called, the king groups work and stuff. But, you know, I've been just cramming this with as much stuff as I normally get asked, like. And, what was it called? But yeah, cram. Bum, bum, bum.
Hey, it's better late than never. It is, Jim. It is better late than never. I accept that, and I'm glad you've come across. Yeah, welcome in. And yes, Kat, I always have problems with TikTok. TikTok hates me. I'm not a big fan of it either. So maybe it's neutral. If I didn't have paying members there, I might just tell them actually to come across to YouTube, but I don't know if they all would. So
I was about to say that as well. I can't. TikTok as a system is really good. What I don't like about TikTok is their agenda. You know, they always have an agenda over in TikTok, and they always, you know, the people on TikTok though, the community, like the Irish medieval community over in TikTok, are the nicest and best people ever. It's just TikTok itself I don't like, you know, but its agendas and stuff. You know.
Yeah.
And even the fact that like they could have easily just accepted both of our the fact we even have to set up an application to go live multi-streaming on TikTok is bloody joke, you know. It should be all set up like YouTube.
Yeah.
The only thing I don't like about YouTube is how unorganized they are over here, you know. Don't get me wrong, it's so easy. Like you literally just, you know, hook on your link and there it is flying, it's working away. Your audio is really good today. yeah. I'm not saying anything there. I'm just gonna agree or not. Yeah, it is actually for change. What was it called? I'll start waffling about the Murphys there. If you're a Murphy, do you know what branch of the Murphys are at? Because there's a few branches of the Murphys, and because originally I thought all the Murphys were just Leinster Murphys, to be honest with you, Michal.
I know it's a common misconception. Like a lot of like families, you have the big families like the McCarthys, the O'Neills, the Murphys, and everyone, and then all the online websites and all the sort of tourism and everything like that really sort of pushes their histories rather than all the other sort of branches that exist. You know, so and I think as well, it's hard to sell when there's like so many small branches that don't have like they're not well attested in the annals. They maybe just pop up here and there. So yeah, the Leinster branch, and you have the same as well with the Murphys that are like, oh, there's a Viking, they're from Vikings because it means sea battler in Old Irish, and you're just like, I often use the example like my name Michael means right hand of God, and I am not the right hand of God. Like so, it's the same for Murphy. So yeah, Leinster, the Econsular branch are Wexford. They're probably the most famous line, the Econsular. But you've got Munster and Muskerry. They are actually originally from Leinster. They were part of the Iphigenti, so they're related to the Collins family, the same line Michael Collins sort of descends from. They moved down into Cork from pressure from the O'Briens and the Fitzmaurices and the Fitzgeralds of Desmond. So the 14th century, they sort of flee down to McCarthy lands, just outside Cork, and are given lands. And anytime you read the annals sort of afterwards, any mention of the Murphys from that area are often accompanied by them supporting McCarthy's, whatever the McCarthy's do. So they're obviously very grateful for those lands, and stay quite loyal to the McCarthy's for it. Ulster's got branches too now, and Ulster's even more confusing because you actually get Murrays who come across from Scotland, and that sometimes gets anglicised to Murphy, and the same with Murphy getting anglicised to Murray. So you'll have some Murrays who are from Ulster who are originally from a Scottish descent, and they've just changed their name to Murphy over time. There's two branches in Ulster. There's one who are part of the Kenaloan, and then there's another who are part of the Kingdom of Airchiela. So again, that just adds confusion to people aren't really sure who they descend from. But I would say if your family's got long history in the South Down, South Armagh, Fermanagh, then you're probably from the Airchielan branches. Anything sort of north, Armagh up, it's probably the Kettle but again, DNA is the only thing that's gonna sort of differentiate the branches. And then there's another branch found in Sligo as well. So but it can be found in a lot of places. But those are the main ones that appear in sort of our research. So yeah. But you get McMurphy's, O'Murphy's, Murphy, Murray, Murrah, Morrow, so all those sort of variations are interchangeable.
Yeah, interestingly enough. And somebody else said to me there, Mongolians would win in Ireland. No, they wouldn't. Well, how are they supposed to move their horses around the bog and the trees, lads? Come on now. We had this discussion before, didn't we? When we said that the Irish would beat the Mongolian invasion, and I'm still like, nobody still answered my question. Like, how are these Mongolian horses supposed to be marching around the bugs and the trees and stuff? They just get ambushed and chopped up, wouldn't they, Michal? No one's thinking about this. Go on.
I thought it was a bit of a stretch, but I did like the thought behind it, I must say. But like I say, I find it hard to be in your camp and supporting it. But do you know what? It's always fun to speculate. Like Ireland and against the Roman army, or Ireland against the Mongolians, or Ireland against it's what would if Ireland had won in 1603 at the Battle of Kinsale, what would our armed forces look like then? So it's an interesting. I do like an interesting take on that.
No, I don't. I don't see the Mongolians winning. Mongolians failed to invade Vietnam for the same reason. Yeah, you see, this is exactly the Vietnam campaign is a good example of why the Mongolians wouldn't succeed in Ireland, because people first off would say about their bows. Well, their bows didn't work very well in Vietnam, and I can't imagine their bows working very well in Ireland with the same wet climate.
Oh, do they use compound bows? Do they, Mongolians?
It could be. I think that's what's causing the problems with their bows.
Yeah, compound bows are the ones that sinew and glue, aren't they? So wet weather sort of makes them fall apart.
Yeah. And then you have the fact that they're only really successful in big open areas. When people make the argument that they do actually, in fact, adapt to go into, close quarter combat and stuff with the tree line and that, it's always just to pull people out. Like, there's never a situation where they're completely narrowed in. And when they are completely narrowed in and they barely get themselves out of those situations by winning, there's always high casualty rate. So it's not even like a full success that they manage to get in there and get back out again. And when you're looking into the Polish and Hungarian campaigns, the Mongolians are quite successful because they're all these areas that they're successful in is flatland areas where they're able to pull the Hungarians and the Polish out of their situations where they're at. And then most of these castles that the Mongolians are dealing with are wooden castles. So it doesn't take much for the Mongolians to circle around and burn the castle itself. The moment they start coming across the very few stone castles the Hungarians and the Polish have, they fail to capture those stone castles. And that's also the reason why they don't enter into Germany, because the territory gets even much, much tougher. And you've got, way more stone castles in Germany than you do in Hungary and Poland at the time. At this point, and that's very, very important when looking into Ireland, because it's wild, because at this point, most of Ireland actually has these castles in around 1240 upwards. So, this is what the Mongolians would have to compete with. And this is also not just a problem for, what was it called? The Mongolians, even amongst the Irish themselves. Like, I remember even last week, I was pointing out the problem that was the Siege of Limerick, all the way up to the Williamite and Jacobite Wars. Limerick is just a humongous thorn in the side. A lot of people assume they could easily barge through Limerick, and You can't. And the biggest problem with Limerick is that there's, it's the way it's located, geography-wise, a complete pain at the side. I don't have a picture of Limerick right now on me, but yeah, it's a stone fortification, similar to Trim in many ways, except for it's got big, humongous water moats around it that are natural as well, and they're fast. It's a very fast current. Like if you fall into the moat between Limerick, goodbye, way off to the North Atlantic you're going. And that's what makes it such a terrifying castle to siege. So I can't, like, obviously, I think when people are saying, okay, fair enough, you make a good argument about going through the close quarter of the trees and the stone fortification. The numbers, on the other hand, and I would say that's the only decent argument people can make, is that Ireland at its biggest, we were looking at that book of Currents and Gallowglass that came out last year, Micheál, and it claims that if Ireland was at its biggest, which never happens, by the way, most of the time Ireland only raises a force of 8,000, but allegedly, according to this book, which is called Of Currents and Gallowglass, if Ireland was to raise every single military force on the island of Ireland, it would be 30,000. The strength of the Mongolians in total, and the Mongolians do actually multiple times raise their biggest force, is 100,000. That's much more bigger than the Irish forces. So it is in the realm of possibility for the Mongolians to just overwhelm these areas. If they were to just get every single Mongolian and say, right, just slap them against Trim Castle here, and we'll get results. Yeah, that's in the realm of possibility. But Jesus Christ, it killed so many Mongolians by the time they'd get over the first castle, and then they'd have to deal with the next one and the next one again. So, and then the problem is with Ireland as well, which is a massive thorn in the side, is the fact that it's not centralized. It's all king groups. So just when you're done with one king group, you'd have to deal with another one, then another one, then another one. So it's this never-ending problem. And then it goes into the whole supply thing, because they have to keep these people supplied constantly. And once again, the Mongolians are very much used to supplying through wagons. They're not the greatest at supplying through boat, which is a huge problem for the Mongolians, because if they're then switching to supplying by boat, what are the Irish going to do? Harass them with their pirates, So I think it's a constant annoyance in the long run of the campaign. So, yeah, I think it's an interesting conversation to definitely have. Any other names are chucking in there? Who else are we grabbing?
Yeah, Murtagh came up as well.
Murtagh. What's the crack with Murtagh?
Yeah, Murtagh's another one. Multiple branches. Get anglicized to a lot of things. So you'll have Murtagh, Scottish versions Murdoch. You get Moriarty's a variation of it.
I know him.
It gets anglicized to Mortimer sometimes in a few exceptions. So the there's three sort of famous branches of the Murtaghs. There's the Kerry ones that become Neo Moriartys primarily, but you can still find the name Murtagh in those regions. They're just variations of the same name. Effectively, you've got the Meath and Midlands branch, who are the main family, and you've got Ulster as well. Monaghan is another branch. Meath, Monaghan, that sort of area. I don't know if they're related or not. That's why I'm going to put it as 4 branches. And then the other ones are the Roscommon line. The Moriarty ones of Kerry are sometimes associated with the Owenoctor Lochleen, rather than the Corcaduvna of the region. I keep looking at my bloody camera, and then I'm looking at you, and then I'm looking at the comment section. Oh, fuck, I need to move this camera out. And then this is just me looking at me on my phone. I've seen if I'm looking good. Yeah, I'll just keep looking at you, Philip. So, the Moriarty are associated with the Owenoctor Lochleen. They're not really mentioned as being part of the Corcaduvna of the region. the one Merthyr branch, but I don't know which one, is actually quite famous for seafaring as well. I would guess it's the Southern Kerry branch, but I'm not gonna put my money on it just because I'm not entirely sure. It would make the most sense just due to their location, but I mean Roscommon has the river, the River Shannon going right through it, so it could be them too. It's hard for, but yeah. So Ulster, Meath, um, uh, Kerry, and Roscommon are your sort of three main branches of Merthyr. But obviously, you've got your Scottish one again with the Murdochs, the McMurters, who are again settling in Ulster during the things like the plantation. So they're the you get Irish and Scottish Murters in Ulster primarily, and again they're totally interchangeable. It's hard to distinguish, who's who for most of Murta history in Ulster. So again, DNA is the only one that's going to sort of sort you out on that one, unfortunately.
Yeah. DNA is handy enough, all right. Although Rachel yesterday, Rachel's going to be. She said she's going to jump on next week, but anyway. Rachel was saying yesterday she was bitching about DNA and how it can be just at times random, or sometimes they even just kind of connect it with the wrong branch altogether. Like, so Rachel definitely doesn't trust the old what was it called? DNA tests and stuff. I was looking over at the comment section. My comment section keeps switching back to Irish. My boys are very radical. Your boys are just keeping on topic of, oh yeah, that clan this and this clan that. My side is just turning around and saying Dia DeWitt and Dia DeWitt and Dia and stuff. Yeah. Theodore. Oh my god. Theodorovka. Oh my god, my thing. It's meant to be God be with you in Irish, and the tongue keeps fucking flipping around wrong.
It's all that Japanese you've been learning.
I think that's why my brain keeps fucking tripping over slightly. What was it called? Kunasatatu Fishikama. You rev shikama. Do you do it? No. Do you grit? Do you gore? Yeah, my tongue keeps tripping over that one. And you think that's my that should be my natural language, especially because I love Munster Irish, but my Munster Irish is terrible.
Well, I've recently started to try and go. So I obviously learned Standard Irish when I was young,
which would have been Ulster Irish anyway. Because I don't think you, unless you learned Leinster. Did you learn Leinster Irish?
Yeah. So you learn Leinster Irish, and then the problem is that what you have is your local dialect will. So people will naturally throw Irish words into general conversation anyway.
Yeah.
Or you'll have like a pronunciation of an area. So your teacher will use your local area. You will learn in Ulster Irish accidentally, because they're just speaking to you in Ulster Irish when they're referring to a townland or something like that. But then when you start to go outside your townland area or your county, you start learning Leinster Irish for everything else, because that's the standard teaching model. And then you sort of like learn Ulster Irish for just your local area. Nothing. So I only did it for 2 years. So I'm really good at ordering coffee in a coffee shop. But that's about me. That's it though. Don't add much more than that to it.
I don't think I'd be able to order coffee. To be honest with you, that's really, really bad to say, but I don't think I'd be able to order coffee right now. If somebody was to turn around to tell me, go down to one of the the Gaeltacht coffee shops there and get yourself a coffee latte, I don't think I'd be able to do that. You know,
I don't know if I'd be able to order a latte. They just hand me something that's got caffeine in it.
It's better than me anyway.
We're not. Let's not bring it down to like specifics. I probably wouldn't even be able to get milk or sugar in it or anything.
Yeah. Well, you see, the thing is, right? You're grand because I don't think you went to an actual Irish school. I was supposed to have gone to an Irish school between the age of 5 to 7, and then I went up to a Catholic school. The problem is it was grand when I was going to the Irish school, because first off, it was a small school, and secondly, the thing is as well is it was teaching more fluently, which was great for me because I learned more fluent than by the book. I'm terrible at by the book. Really, really, really am bad from by the book. So by the time I was 8 up to around 18, for the leaving certain stuff, which, you know, for you guys is the A levels, and I don't know what it is in America. Somebody in the comment section will probably tell me what the test is to get into university. But in Ireland, it's the living cert, and my Irish was so bad. But the problem is the teacher was very much like, he would literally just have me stare at it and go do, 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 like that. My dad was exactly the same. They couldn't understand that I was very kind of, you know, with the words and the tongue and they wouldn't get that. They are very much, you know, if you look at it, if you stare at the book long enough, it will just go into your head, you know, which for me, ain't happening. Like, so it wasn't too bad. Actually, funny enough, when I was in the Irish school and the Irish teachers used to teach us fluently, there was never a thing of just staring at the book and learning Irish. It was a case of, you know, repeat after me, and then building sentences, and then doing the very, very painful thing that every child from like the 90s downwards remembers, and that's the first time they need to use the toilet, and the teacher's like, okay, how do you say that in Irish? And you're just like, I need to use the toilet. Which, bloody hell, what is it? No, actually. I remember that one so well. I needed to use the toilet, and my bladder was burning away, and she wouldn't, and I was butchering it. I remember bits of it, and I was butchering it, but it worked. It did get me to learn how to use the toilet properly, and that, and food as well. If we needed to have lunch, we'd have to ask the teacher. So slowly but surely, we were picking up our own Irish and stuff. And Owen's jumped back in there again. We were just bitching about you there, Owen.
1 second. 1 second.
Oh yeah, take your time there. No, I was saying about what was it called? Learning Irish from the 90s downwards, when you needed to use the toilet, and you're panicking away, and the teacher won't let you use the toilet until you say it perfectly in Irish. Do you remember that, Owen?
I do. How do I'm on a different computer. How do I add my channel? Or is it already on?
Give us a quick second there. I'll have an old gawk. I don't think it is on. Just go up to the top right there and click edit channels, and
it's saying add channels, and it's asking for to log in. Continue.
Yeah.
This email address is already in use. Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, the choice. That's why I don't like this whole Big Brother setup as well. The way they're supposed to be monitoring you, and then the moment you're not using a computer that is already monitored on a different computer, then they're just like, oh, you can't use that now. You have to use a new email. You're a different person now. Okay. I thought I was just me still, no? There's a few questions there for you, Michal, if you want to any of them out. Oh, no, we'll wait for one.
I'm just eating a chocolate.
Take your time. No rush.
I'm just hoping I'm not called away by the doctor or something like that. It's been a bit mad tonight.
Yeah, that's grand.
You could have just stayed away, and it wouldn't have. No, I would have understood. It's okay.
Fucking no password.
No, take your time on. There's no big deal. It's not like we'll go on to what you're saying there, Michal.
No, I just I know that we'll just make my way up for the list. I'll just start talking, and then when Owen's sorted, we can think. The next name I think was earlier on. It was the common.
I'm going to try from the other computer. 1 second.
Yeah, take your time.
Let me see.
Kick him out there now. I'll put the block there when you're talking away there. What was it called?
Dave Murray. Who came first, the Murphys or the Murrays? Written in the annals, it's kind of hard because obviously names are just written as Murta first, and it's variations, early Irish variations. Both Murray and Murphy are anglicizations, so it's hard to say which came first. I'm sure if you really dug into the archives, you might find an early reference to it and make a claim that that's the early, because it's the earliest reference to the name. Then that's the earliest version of it. But it's just as soon as the English language is coming into Ireland and people are adopting it, and you're going to have that. So they're both arriving around the same time because Murta exists as a name much earlier. That was it. JPC JC was asking about the Cummins family. Cummins is mostly associated with Scotland, but there are variations in Ireland too that get anglicised to Cummings. So you have the O'Cummings of. I've still got this chocolate. I got a Quality Street and I had caramel, and I didn't realise it had a nut in it too. And I'm picking up bits of nut falling out in my mouth.
I'm not going to say anything else about that, what you just said there.
Anyone got any good editing tools to just edit
that? Don't worry. What was it? Owen just missed out on that one completely. Like, if he just stepped in, then he's doing her like.
Yeah. So they get anglicised to Cummins. They are from County Clare, from the Burren, so areas of like the Mickey Breen, the O'Neills, the O'Loughlin sort of things would be probably close relations to them. In Connacht, there's an Erner family around Mayo that gets anglicised to Cummins and Commons. In Ulster, there's the Mac Cummins, who are from Monaghan and Cavan. And then you obviously have the Norman Scottish variations of Cummin, who were a famous rival branch of the Bruces during the Scottish War of Independence. So again, you're going to have Cummings coming across Ulster for the same reason, and mixing with the Monaghan Cavan branches, and just basically muddying the waters a wee bit. You're going to hear that a lot with a lot of the surnames, unfortunately. There's no getting around it.
It's interesting as well when the, what was it, quote unquote, the Cambro Normans, which are the Knights of the Welsh Marshes, come in, and also the Anglo Normans, the the barons living in England at the time, like the butlers and the Bergs and stuff are coming over to Ireland, and they start mixing in with the Irish population. It's funny how a lot of them start marrying into local population and then pretty much inherit local blood feuds and stuff, that people do have a very kind of black and white view on the Normans, well, the Hiberno Normans and all that kind of stuff when they come onto the island of Ireland, is they're assuming it turns into a very kind of Irish versus English war, when although there are times when it's sort of like that, when you've got the likes of the rise of Brian O'Neill and stuff, they, don't really realize, Jesus Christ, where the hell's Owen gone off to? They don't, there he is. They don't seem to realize that there's actually, when the Normans come in and they start to settle onto the island of Ireland, they start to build a relationship with the locals in that community. And then they're marrying other Gaelic lords and stuff. And when they marry other Gaelic lords and they get involved with the local community in that area, then they start to get involved with the local blood feuds with the clans and stuff. I don't think people realize that kind of stuff, just as the Normans are starting to become more Irish than the Irish themselves, that's kind of a part and parcel of it, because you were saying there about, you were pointing out some of those Norman names. And it's just funny, when I was looking at the history even yesterday with King John, because if you guys don't know this, I'm actually putting together a PowerPoint presentation for Sunday night for King John and stuff over my Patreon. And as part of that, I was looking at the Normans settling down on the island of Ireland. And, straight away, one of the first things I noticed is how they get involved with the local blood feuds. It's a part of this evolution of them becoming more Irish than the Irish themselves, for sure. Like,
yeah.
And
I'll just While Owen's still sorting himself out, we'll just move on to the next name, who was S. Corneen. He wants to know about the Sean O'Kiernan from Northern Canada, family out in Sligo, Lochgill. Yeah, I mean, the Cornins, sometimes in Kerry, it's apparently been anglicized to Courtney. Primarily, the only branch I'm aware of are the Breffna line, who were poets and chroniclers for the O'Rourke's. So Lochgill is around the territory that they held anyway. So if he's from Lochgill, still at that point, and they're known to have held land in Lochgill, during the medieval era, chances are that's the family. I believe the Kerry branch is related to the Breffna branch, but I have not done a lot of research into that. I'm pretty sure I remember seeing somewhere that they were the same, or they're related. They claim a relation, and there's no evidence really to say that they're not. So, yeah, I think so. Yeah, they're. I don't know if they're related to the O'Rourke's, but they're certainly working for the O'Rourke's as propagandists, basically. Doing their job. So
for sure,
But yeah, I just think I love. Do you know what? I must say that individual that I'm saying about his family. What I really love is when you find out a family's probably been in the same area for like 2,000 years, 1,000 years, to find out they've not really moved more than a couple of miles from. That's so someone whose family moved so much in my youth, and I don't live anywhere near. Well, I live in North Down now instead of South Down, but it's always interesting to see families are still very heavily concentrated in their sort of ancestral areas.
For sure, just popping back into the comment section there, guys. I know Michal is slowly making his way through the names and stuff. I'm just gonna be random because I specialize more in the campaigns and all that kind of history, all that kind of stuff, really. So I'll just be looking away at some of the stuff there because I think some of the comments are brilliant, and are more my field rather than Michal's field. So I'm going to be plucking away at some of these questions and stuff. So if you feel like I've skipped over you or something like that, I don't actually mean to. I'm kind of just picking where Michal is actually literally working his way down the name list. I'm just plucking away. I'm just doing what I want here. In fairness, I did pay for the multi-stream, so.
It's mine.
It's my stream. Get out.
Everyone remember whenever you used to have that football, everyone used to play football, and then there was one kid who was like, "It's my ball, I'm leaving."
That's 100% what I'm doing here, just making up the rules. You have to be the goalkeeper.
It's all right. I was always the goalkeeper anyway. I'm 5'8" now, but which isn't much of a goalkeeper anyway. But yeah, I must have been about 4'9", the smallest goalkeeper in the world.
Oh Jesus!
Couldn't reach the crossbar until I was about 29.
What was it called? I pop up with Austría's question there about the McShanes, and how successful they were up in New York and stuff. How they ended up being quite popular, powerful anyway, up in New York. I'm assuming, Austria, what you're talking about there is like the gangs in New York and stuff, because that's definitely out of my field of expertise. Because once you start going past the they call it, I don't know, maybe Owen will correct me on this one. Which do you prefer? Do you prefer referring the wars that happened during the 16th century as the Tudor conquest of Ireland, or would you call it the Tudor invasion of Ireland? Which would you refer to as, Owen?
It's not an invasion. Is my microphone working okay? Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's
sounds good.
I would say I would tend to use the names of the individual wars. If it had to refer to everything, I would use conquest. because they were already there.
Yeah, well, that's true. Like
they didn't invade. They sent over thousands of troops, but it wasn't an invasion as such.
Yeah, it's kind of in a funny spot after the Wars of the Roses because of the fact that they, what was it called? The Battle of Stokefield kind of left the opportunity for the Tudors to politically put their foot back into Ireland again. So yeah, I definitely would agree with you there. It would be more of the Tudors kind of walking into Ireland rather than just an invasion in itself. What was it called? And then once you get up to 1603, I think everything past 1603 is kind of, starting to go out of my field of expertise. Because I think a lot of people would definitely agree. That's kind of definitely where the medieval era is definitely coming to. Like you would start to tidy up the medieval era around 1450. And then by the time 1603 is there, you expect all the toys to be kind of in its box at that point from a historical view.
Yeah, because the Tudors are early modern. To me, the medieval period comes to an end either with the death of Richard III and the Tudors, Henry VII, or with the fall of Constantinople.
Yeah, I definitely would agree with you there, because even in Japan,
they kind of bleed into each other.
Yeah, because even in Japan, it's not clean cut. Like because it kind of just bleed. Because everyone expects, Japan to get up to one of its ultimate battles with Oda, and then it's okay. We have to close Japan down, and it's not a case of it just suddenly go poof, was closed. And even on top of that, Japan, even when it's meant to be completely closed off, you still have the Dutch and the British coming in. And even painting-wise, like during the periods that Japan is supposed to be closed off, it's producing some of the greatest early modern paintings ever in the whole world. Japan is, and the reason why you're able to bring in so many new techniques and different paints into the island is because of the trade with the Dutch and the British. So it's not completely closed off. And then you have Okinawa, which is still, it's kind of in between doing its own thing. But, technically speaking, Okinawa should be, under Japan at that point. And that's freely doing whatever it wants. So even for Japan, trying to find that clean cut of when the medieval era ends for them, the warring period, as they would call it here, it kind of bleeds rather than just being a sudden, big, massive battle. And that's that. But even on top of that, I was reading I think it's one of the books we have, Owen, and it points out that even up to 1650, you can still find gallo glass doing gallo glass stuff, like, behaving like it's still the medieval era in many ways. And even as well, you still have the McCartys who are, behaving more like king groups rather than, a part of the English society. So you're definitely bang on right. It's not a case of just the hammer comes down and then we're suddenly, all early modern like.
Yeah. But like in the 1590s, Ireland, Gaelic Irish began to use the caliber musket heavily. Like I think the last reference to the use of bows, apart from the English held on to their long bows as long as possible. Yeah. In Clontibret, or in the year before, there's references to Scots mercenaries, Scots soldiers in Ireland using bows. But after that, the Gaelic Irish just were using the caliber musket.
Yeah. I just saw Oshry's comment there. Lads, when the medieval era ended with the Tudors, they rolled the credits, but the peasants had to buy the tickets for the next season. Yeah, we sure did, didn't we, huh? Bloody paying for the tax for bloody everything. What was it called? And then there was another one just under that one. Mihal, you can easily butt in anytime you want and start picking out the names again.
I've got another name. I'll just pick it.
Caveman is asking about maps.
Oh yeah, go on. I have a good few there.
Because you do start to find maps, reasonable maps of Ireland under Elizabeth. What's his name? Cecil, who was Elizabeth's right hand man for a long time. was big into map making, and you start finding some very interesting maps. And there is a guy, Bartlett, and he draws some very interesting maps. There's a book called The Queen's Last Map Maker, which has most of his stuff. It's basically during the 9 Years' War in Ulster and in a few other places. And then in 1596, 1597, after Donald MacCarthy Moore had died, the English did a survey of his landholding and produced some very interesting maps. If you go to the ucc.celt site and look for the Desmond survey, you'll find those maps. There's one of Valentia Island, one of Evora, one of the more Kenmare side of Evora. They're problematic, of course, but they're reasonably good maps, and they're very micro maps, so you can kind of find out who owned each field. So they're good that way.
Oh, definitely, for sure. And
I'll get
the problem is I didn't. Sorry, is that Michal?
No, whenever you've got the port, before you open another comment, I'll get it. If you want to do like name, comment, maybe we'll get a bit of rotation through, just because it's been quite a few.
Yeah, just push me all the way and just start yapping on about names.
No, it's your ball.
Well, I don't want the ball anymore. You can have the ball. I'll just go and tell my mommy.
Right. Unless you answer the question there, I'll give Kat one. Kat wanted to know about the Dalys. She says she knows a bit of information. Most Dalys are Daly is probably the most famous bardic family in. I keep looking at myself. In Ireland, they're originally from Westmeath, a place called Teffia, and they claim to be part of the larger Eneel, Southern Eneel. It's probably propaganda, like most people who sort of associate themselves with larger king groups. And also, the reason I claim that as well is the Dalys have precedents for it later on, for also branches who move to Munster start claiming Owenoctor descent. So they're already showing a pattern. Being bards anyway, they're quite known for having that sort of deviation from the truth. So primarily though, they're from the Corca Adav, who are in Teffia, and that's the first known sort of branch of them. And they moved to Cork, they moved to Clare, they moved to Sligo, they moved to East Galway, and they would be all quite big branches. But by and large, they seem to be none of them seem to be classed as unrelated, apart from a Norman branch who are called the Dalys, but they've kind of been absorbed into the Dalys, so it'd be kind of hard again to differentiate between those groups. So you've got the West Cork, I believe, are from a place called Muntabarry, and then the Clare set I know are hanging around the Burren with the O'Loughlin's and later O'Briens, but I don't know where the Roscommon, Sligo, and East Galway families are sort of hanging about. But that's the O'Daly's in a basic nutshell.
Nice. And I'll just pop back over to the comment section here. Caveman, why do you hate the O'Briens so much? I've been watching your comments popping up, and all you've been calling is the O'Briens. They're traitors. They're this. They're that. Why? Why do you hate the O'Briens so much? Like,
but they are traitors.
Jesus Christ. Okay.
From the 1580s onwards, the vast majority of them are like Donogh O'Brien, the 4th Earl of Thomond. Like, he's raised Protestant in London. He's on Elizabeth's side the whole time in the 9 Years' War. One or two of his brothers tried to join Hugh O'Neill, but they were killed or pushed aside. then they stayed pro-English. In the 1640s, Lord Inchquin was terrible. And like,
what do I expect of an O'Neill, you know?
But like they become extremely anglicized. Like Lord Inchquin died a few years ago, and he told this story, which is I don't think it's true whatsoever. He said De Valera asked him to become King of Ireland after independence, which I don't think there is any truth in. And I have a family story. I don't know how true it is, but apparently my grandfather in the War of Independence took a pot shot at Lord Inchquin, but missed. But they became ultra anglicized. And sort of some of them became Jacobites later on, and but in the 16th and early 17th century, they were definitely on the wrong side.
Well, I mean, to be fair, you can still say it's traitors being part of the Jacobites because they're still supporting, a monarchy that's based out of London. So it's really, is it really still not being? I suppose it's the best of the bad bunch.
What do you expect of these Ulster men, huh? Jesus Christ, I think I have too many of them now. I need to start blocking them off my channel.
Yeah,
it's jealousy.
A jealousy.
Yeah, because we had Brian Brew, who was a good old Brian boy, who went off and battered all you boys, and that's all it ultimately is off you. All just pure jealousy. You guys in your email, had 1,000 years to try to unify the island, take every single one of them cattle tributes. And did you do it? No, you didn't. And now all I hear is...
Okay. So Brian Boru, fair enough, he took cattle tribute from the entire island. We can agree to that. But what we can agree is that all the Munster lads bent over straight away. In fact, they didn't even bend over for him. They bent over for his brother and then him. Whereas we kind of made him work for it 3 times. He had to come up to us 3 times and beg.
I was just looking through the internet one day, and I was mad discussion, and someone said Brian Boru ruled Ulster for a wet weekend.
Yes. Yeah. In the end, he came up and he went, "Please, guys, have my daughter. Please stop doing this. I can't keep coming north. The train fares are extortionate. Please stop me. I'm old. Please stop making me come up here and deal with these rebellions."
And he couldn't understand the accent.
I don't care which way you worded it, lads. You still handed over your cattle, so Who's emperors of the Scotty, huh? I don't see any Nail in that list, I think
he still had to come to Ulster to confirm it, though.
Over in Armagh. Yes, master. Yes, of course you're emperor of the Scotty. We love you, master. We love you in Armagh. You're the greatest.
Just give us some more gold.
Taking it, absolutely no problems. I can't say any more words there because I get into trouble. I'm literally, that's why I'm talking the way I am. I'm like, every single time I say a comment, I'm like, I'd love to elaborate on that comment, but I get booted off YouTube.
It's just a good job you don't drive, Philip, because you'd be checking around your car in the morning. Right.
Wait,
what was that? Where were we at?
Yeah, grab a comment there while you didn't start answering. Before they tell you off again.
I'll just be back in 2 minutes. I have to check.
Yes.
Yeah. Take your
every
time.
You disappear is fine, mate. Usher Overseas is asking about the O'Connor Feelies and the O'Doones and the O'Regans. I don't want to go over all of them. It's a lot of history to sort of go over. But the O'Doones, actually the O'Doones, Don is the most common sort of anglicization of the name. Most people sort of think of the O'Dons of the Eregan, who are a branch of the O'Conopheles. They are part of the same family. So it's much like the O'Dempseys. And the O'Donnells are sort of lords of Regan. I don't know. It's in modern day Laois, so it's one of the main tribes of Laois. And they, they're quite a powerful family. The O'Donnells build quite like big castles. There's a couple of them. The most famous one is destroyed in the 1650s. What is it called? I think it's Tynahinch or something, if I remember. Tynahinch is their main area. You've got the O'Donnells of Tara, you've got the that's it. That's all I can think of. The Corkalugda of Cork. So, which is more often anglicized the Deneen, but they're part of the O'Donnells. So the Corkalugda of Cork, and then you have Scottish Dons as well. So there's quite, again, so you have the same problem with families sort of interacting and intermarrying and adopting each other's names. The O'Regans are actually, there's Regan Mountain near where I live, just north of, just above Dundonald, and I always want to check to see if there's any link to that area. But I've not checked it out yet. So, but the most famous O'Regans are the Thomond branch, but there's also a Meath branch who claim to be part of the Southern Neil, one of the famous sort of 4 tribes of Tara. And then you have probably the actual most famous O'Regans are the Dalcassians. They're part of Brian Bruce King group, and they're found of like North Limerick. So they're the main. There is I'm not going to say there is an O'Regan linked to the O'Noctor, but it's only just sort of like people have just been started like looking into it, whether it's actually the Dalcassian group or an O'Noctor group. They don't know if it's like they've separated, and a branch of the O'Regans is settled in Munster, like a lot of Dalcassian families did. So I haven't done any research into it, but apparently there's some of them. So
happy days. And let me pop back into the comment section myself. Jim O'Neill was just talking about what's your accent specifically, Michal?
My accent is an Ulster accent of a boy who left Northern Ireland at the age of 11 and then was educated privately and given elocution lessons, and then came back to Ireland 10 years later.
I never had elocution lessons.
Yes, because I was privately educated, and I was told that we were all told that you wouldn't get a job in London if you had a regional accent. So you had to have elocution.
I see Owen gagging to say something there.
a posh Ulster accent.
Well, no, it's more posh. Not poshing. So what happens when you have an Ulsterman who's being forced, instead of having a posh Ulster accent, is being forced to have a posh English accent, is you end up with a common English accent.
It still sounds like a proper Ulster man. Like half the time you sound like you're in the middle of Belfast, especially when you're proper.
See, that's what a
raging on about something. What's that?
I said that's what a Munster man would say. You think we all sound the same?
Oh, you do. In fairness, you're all just a bunch of people waiting to hand over your cattle. To be honest with you, hear the accent, and I'm just
there's a big difference between the Belfast accent and the Derry accent.
Come on now.
I can understand Belfast. Derry is difficult.
Yeah. Just people ready to put their heads over the wall and say, "We surrender. Here's your cattle." Just thanks for that. What was I going to say again? No, because I get that a lot on my side. People asking me where exactly is my accent from, because my family mostly moves between Limerick and Cork. And then you see my dad and granddad were both in the military. And what was it? Granddad was in both of them were actually engineers in the Irish Defence Force, but they would be stationed between Collins's barracks and the barracks up in Limerick. Most of the time in Collins's barracks. And you think now, because it's so funny, because the rest of my dad's brothers all have a thick Knocknaheeny accent on them. And then I've got my own dad then, because he's gone between Cork and Limerick, and I've gone between Cork and Limerick, and I grew up in Mallow. My accent is between that whole area, because some people would say my accent was between Mallow and Kilmallock. It's neither Mallow nor Kilmallock, but kind of in between, like, you know. So, yeah, my accent is quite funny as well. Like, how about yourself, Owen? What would you brand your accent as?
My accent is bizarre because I spent 26 years abroad teaching English. So I grew up in Dublin, and then like you go to teach English in Latin America, and people don't understand you, even with a middle class Dublin accent. And now, when I came back, people told me I spoke English very well for a German. And now I'm living down in Kerry, in the where the accent, like the words are different, like sound out.
Yeah, see, I live in an Ulster Scots area, and I refuse to adopt an Ulster Scots accent.
No, it's not the accent as much the words. Like here they use ye the whole time.
Yeah, gobshites. Yeah. Because it reminds me of when I went to Mallow for the first time, because I was living in Cork for a wee bit, and then I moved out because I was 7 years of age. I say for a wee bit, I was a child, and then I moved out to Mallow, and I remember being 8 years of age and hearing a Mallow accent for the first time. I couldn't understand a single thing your man was saying. He just comes up to me and says, and I was an 8-year-old going, Jesus Christ, what the hell is this? Like, completely bizarred out of it. Like,
yeah, it's the same with my family. They were all farmers in South Down, and I couldn't understand my great uncles at all.
Because like here the kids refer to the, like someone mentioned, Kerry accent, but there are various Kerry accents.
Yeah,
and the kids around here, they refer to the farmer accent, the farmer Kerry accent, as the hardest one.
Yeah,
and it's like you, Micheál, your farming relatives. You need subtitles at times. Like one of my neighbors is really difficult to understand.
Yeah,
it's brilliant. and that's the banter, like, especially when people are making fun of each other, like. And what I was gonna bloody say as well. I had a point there. Somebody bloody had a comment in there, and I kind of zoomed down thinking I'd keep it in my head. Oh, the Kerry one. Somebody says, I love the Kerry accent. Do you just abduct Kerry men? So you listen to them for a wee bit and then you just take advantage of them. Are you one of those Americans, are you? I've seen that a few times where someone's like, God, you have a lovely accent. And then they just drag them off to the nearest B&B. Don't understand this single thing they're saying, like, you know. Well, so I was going to bloody say. Micheál, remember, you can push me to the side anytime you want and take over the show, like.
Okay, well, I'll just jump in there with Yarrow Leafs. He wants to know about the Kavanaghs. So yeah, go ahead. Again, most people will associate Kavanagh primarily with the Leinster line of the Kavanaghs from McMurrough's son, Kavanagh, they claim descent from, primarily. But not all Kavanaghs are. And I think actually Kavanagh is actually an epithet. It's not actually his name. I can't remember if he had another name, but because it means like saint, from Saint Kevin. So I think there's an origin story behind that, but I can't really remember it off the top of my head. But they're not the only Kavanaghs in Ireland. You've got Kavanaghs. Sometimes, more often, it's Cavan or Kevin in Sligo, Mayo, from the Fiacre Mui branch, but sometimes it's anglicized to, or Kevane, but it's sometimes anglicized to Kavanagh. You have Kavanaghs in Ulster as well, who are part of the, I believe they're part of the Cianachta, who are displaced by the O'Cahans, who are part of the Neil in the 13th, 14th century. So there's another branch there. And I want to say there's another branch. Have you got that map?
Which one? Because I have all your maps there.
Ulster.
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 I'm paying attention to the comment section there.
I want to say there's one around Fermanagh, but I can't remember. And sometimes this map's a really good tool to.
Shite. 1 second. Go on.
No, I don't see him. Maybe I'm making that one up. I'm just making that one up. But yeah, like I say, so you've got the.
No, it's a bit too.
It's all right. It's all right. I saw the map. I was obviously just waffling there. But there's definitely an Ulster branch, the Kavanagh ones, which the Kavanagh are found normally up near Derry. So any Kavanaghs like in Derry would probably be associated with those.
Happy days, caveman. You've got a Sligo accent, but your brother is from Birmingham. I wonder if you're related to what's it called? Any of the Quinns up your area in Sligo? Because my mother's a Quinn, and she was related to the McCormicks and stuff as well up in Sligo. And my mum did her DNA test recently, and because my mother has a Manchester accent, because Grandad had to move over when back in the 60s, the 70s, he had to move over for work. Although it's funny because he actually was in the IRA back in the day, and so was Grandad as well. They were both in the IRA. But Grandad had to move over to Manchester around the 60s and 70s, and he had Patrick Quinn, and he was Patrick Quinn, and they had to move over to Manchester in the 60s and the 70s for work, and they got very close. Over back then, obviously, you're going into the period of Margaret Thatcher and stuff. So a lot of the English started bullying the Irish on the work sites and stuff, and trying to bully their families and stuff. So all the Irish in there kind of linked together as a good old kind of Anglo-Irish community. And I'm just wondering there if I know anybody, because he's saying there about the Birmingham accent. But anyway, my mother had her DNA test recently, and for some reason, people are expecting her to have a bit of English DNA in her because she has an English accent. It almost came out 100% Irish, especially around the Sligo area. So everybody, some strange reason, was very surprised about that. Like an accent changes your DNA structure. Go on there, grab a few more there, Michal, and have an old. What's it called?
Have it all just waffle.
Yeah. That's all. I'm pretty sure that's all we do all night is to drink and waffle, isn't it?
Yeah, just go for it. Why not? Yeah. I think I saw the McGowans. So I'll just sort of reel off a couple of McGovern stories. It was the same guy. I can't remember who it was now that was asking about the Kavanaghs. McGovern's primarily one of the more famous lines are the part of the Hebrew and Brefna, or they claim it. Got to remember, most families, when I state that they are part of a king group, it's normally just one that they're claiming to be associated with. Or later writers like Wolfe have attributed them to these groups, but whether they've referred to it later on or not, but it's so that it's always a claim, not a factual statement. But they claim it anyway. So the Hebrew and Brefna, I mean, a perfect example is the Hebrew and Brefna claim to be part of the Hebrew, and they're not. It's this later fabrication as well. So they're probably from another group entirely. But yeah, they're the most sort of famous branch of the family. So they're found in Old Brefna, so Cavan, areas like Cavan, parts of North Leitrim, stuff like that is probably the most famous one. I'm not aware, but I know other branches do exist, but that's the most numerous one and who most people would associate themselves with. They're definitely the more famous branch.
Cersei, what the hell are you talking about there, man? The O'Rourke's are right there. What are you whinging for? I have him whinging there that the O'Rourke's aren't on the map. The O'Rourke's are right there. What are you talking about?
They're bigger than all the other ones.
I know, right? I can see them a mile away. And what do you mean by the O'Rourke's are never on these maps? Jesus, give me a map where the O'Rourke's aren't just poof.
Here, pull up your map that you had before
the
1480, the whole map of
1488 one. Yeah, it's then poof, right there again in the centre of it, the O'Rourke's. You swear the O'Rourke's aren't the bloody map, the O'Rourke's and the O'Reillys. Jesus, what do you expect from somebody from bloody the Kingdom of Breffni? Like, the world has to go around him, and if it doesn't, Jesus, we all have to hear about it.
Philip, he's not complaining about O'Rourke, he's complaining about O'Corneen not being included with O'Rourke.
Yeah. I suppose that's true.
It's because they're not a leading family. What you normally find is it's the leading families. The McCarthys, the O'Sullivans. If you look at any map, look at McCarthy more there on that map. And the O'Sullivans have just as much right to be on that map. But, sometimes they're just as powerful. These maps it's very hard to get all these families. And not only that, how do you differentiate sometimes because of anglicizations of names? Some names can have up to, so Doherty has over 100 known variations, never mind the minute small variations that do exist, mistranscribings later on from the 19th century. And then you can have them scattered all over the place. How do you get all those different variations into a map? Otherwise you'd just be scrolling down to, you'd basically have to use Google Earth and write it on each street. So it's a very hard thing to do. So most people just put the main families, and it can be done for every country. You'll have earls and dukes and barons in England, but you'll have smaller landholding gentlemanly families that sort of just get put to the wayside.
And then another thing is, like, small branches break off, like Iveragh Peninsula. It's part of McCarthy Moor holds it, but O'Sullivan owns more land. But the McGillicuddies are O'Sullivans, but I don't know when they emerge, but they emerge at some stage. And then in Portmagee, where you get the boat to the Skelligs, that's another branch of the O'Sullivans whose name I can't remember now. And like, you don't find them on maps because maps try and change something that's really dynamic and changing, and they try and freeze it. Sort of, it's difficult.
Well, that's another thing as well. The O'Rourke's. There's an O'Rourke branch who I think that nobody knows what happened, but I suppose theoretically the most accurate thing that's happened is there's been a civil war. Two competing factions are fighting for the kingship of the O'Rourke's, and the losing branch leaves and heads down to McCarthy lands, and they're given a noble title. They're beekeepers, effectively, which is quite a high job role within the court system, and they set up shop in McCarthy lands, and stayed quite prominent in the region. But if you put O'Rourke in McCarthy lands and then put O'Rourke up in Breffni, people are going to misread that as well, because they're going to say, oh, is that two families, two different O'Rourke's? And there's also a Muckrourke family in Meath as well. So you can just see the problems that already arises just from one surname. And every surname has these, and some has to have these and more. When I'm sitting here telling you that, oh yeah, there's a family from here, Roscommon, from Connacht, from Ulster, from Leinster, there's two branches in Ulster, it just starts to get very messy. Before you know it, the map it just becomes just a maze. So you just have to, unfortunately, you have to simplify it.
Oh yeah, it's very true. And let me pop back over, unless there's something you want to grab as well, Michal, or Owen as well. You can grab a few names as well and just start covering the history behind it as well. Go on.
Someone was asking, they mentioned branches of the O'Neills, I think. The O'Neills are the few. I think they're asking how many branches there are. There's loads. There's loads. It's one of the biggest surname groups in Ireland. I try and, starting from the right, starting from Antrim, you had two main branches in the Clandy Upper and Clandy Lower. Now these would branch off and break off quite a bit. You had O'Neill's with the Fuse, which is South Armagh, essentially. Then you had
North Armagh.
North Armagh. Okay, it's not. It doesn't go down to the border.
I don't know if their land went the whole way down.
Yeah.
Because you start going into O'Hanlon territory, and I know the O'Hanlons did kind of buy a little bit.
Like you have Dungannon O'Neill's, which is kind of, if you see the lake, it's kind of slightly down and to the left of that. Over on the west is Strabane, which faces Lifford. You had Slucht Art, which was Turlough Linnock O'Neill, and I think Phelim O'Neill. And then you have various others, like in the 1590s, Hugh O'Neill's illegitimate brother, Art, he had set up a little lordship, and then his son Brian MacArt, who's the elder brother of Owen Roe, was slightly to the right of Lough Neagh. And then Cormac, Hugh O'Neill's younger brother, was in the west of Tyrone. And then you have a whole pile of other ones. You probably have at least 20 minor O'Neill lordships. So it's very, very big.
And not only that, you also have two unrelated O'Neills as well. You have O'Neills of the Burren in County Clare, and you have O'Neills
just to complicate things.
Yeah, so you have the O'Neills who are part of the Dacia tribal group down in Waterford. So there's two more, and they're not even related to the Northern O'Neills.
And actually, something I find funny. So going back in history, the Kennel Owen, the McLaughlins. So, and they have big fights with the O'Neills. There's an O'Neill in Clare. There's also a MacLaughlin. I presume the pronunciation when you say it quickly is almost the same. I think they're a small little group, and I don't know where they came from in Clare, but they're MacLaughlin as well.
Could they be a variation of the O'Loughlins? They've just got a different.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes. So you have the O'Loughlins of the Burren as well, who are actually the rulers of the Burren in Northern Clare. But yes, and then you have the MacLaughlins from Scotland who obviously come across and settle right in traditional Irish MacLaughlin territory. So, and then you have Mail Shockland's sons or grandsons take on the MacLaughlin surname, but not pronounced that way, but it gets anglicized that way later. So yeah, again, problematic. Although someone of the Kennel Owen DNA group, testing group, did a look, and he actually believes that the MacLaughlins were the rightful O'Neill branch, and that the O'Neills weren't even related to the MacLaughlins. They weren't even genetically related, and they may have been usurpers from an illegitimate line. And it's something that is attested apparently in records at the time. The MacLaughlins, which was often dismissed as propaganda, because obviously what would you do when you have a rival branch trying to usurp your lands, etc.? You sort of say, oh, they're not even legitimate. And apparently it's he's at the Scottish Clans podcast, great channel. He did a talk with them earlier on in the year, so I need to go back to it, but it's something very interesting that I need to go back to, but it could raise even more questions. I'm a MacLaughlin supporter anyway. I'm actually more MacLaughlin than O'Neill. So.
I was just thinking there as you were explaining that stuff, names like MacLaughlin, Murphy and stuff, would it be because the reason why we see some of them just kind of popping up but don't have any connections with the original branches? For example, MacLaughlin's branching away from the O'Neill, some of them not branching away from the O'Neill, and then we have Murphy's, some of them not branching away from the Leinster branch and stuff. Would it because it's more of a play on the language rather than the fact that they're branching away from a family? That's how they end up with the surnames that they have.
It's more common. The reason why you have the problems with our surnames effectively is anglicization, is the corruption of. So Murphy McCarthy is a corruption of effectively what we know, because again, we've only got records for so many families. You've got up to 3,500 Irish surnames today, and their variations, but they can come from multiple. Obviously, the problem is that you have, like I said, McCarthy has 3 known anglicization points. So 3 separate Irish surnames, or Irish individuals have 3 different names, and they've got, as they've been anglicized down, and it's the standardization of the English language in the 19th century, they've all become effectively McCarthy's. So the actual main problem is the anglicization of the Irish language and the corruption of the surnames that exist. There are other problems that do exist as well, such as many families didn't have surnames until later. The Irish were then trying, and the Gaelic resurgence of the 19th and 20th century, they tried to re-Gaelicize their names and often did it incorrectly. So there's a lot of things that are at play that have corrupted our surnames to the point that they are today, and why you have so many problems with them, basically.
And another problem with surnames is the use of nicknames. Because like if you look at Irish history, there are like O'Connor Don, O'Connor Carey, or Owen Rua, Aid Rua. So Clan de Boys, Clan Ahabui, it's Clan Aidbui, the son, the family of the descendants of Yellow Hugh. Even today, the O'Sullivans in South Kerry, there's at least 100 nicknames. And another thing I noticed down here, many people commonly drop the surname. So not the surname, they drop the O. Like they refer to John Sullivan as instead of John O'Sullivan. And it's only when you see the guy writing his name down, you'll see the O there. It's and that would have happened a lot. Nowadays, since like the late 19th century, with, as you mentioned, Miho, people pay attention to the O's, to the Macs, to the full surname. Someone else was asking about why there's so many versions of the O'Neills. You actually just answered that question, but people would drop the O, the name would get transcribed wrong, and things would change. And then, like, say someone went to the States in 1848, completely Irish speaking, and using a script that is slightly different, and their name they just put up whatever way people spell it.
Yeah, but they may not have spoke as clear English as So when they're seeing it written down, they're not questioning it. They're just like, that's the variation of my name now. They may not have even used it in their own lifetime anyway. Say that they may not need it to. It's only their children and grandchildren that start to adopt it. There's so many problems. The main problem, and a lot of names will have this, not just names of like, we see it today. The Chinese, they have a lot of problems with their name getting anglicized and vice versa. So a lot of Chinese people, when they come to England, will just adopt an English name. I went to school with a lot of Chinese names. People, I don't know their Chinese names. I know them as Derek. I know them as all the other names that they took on, rather than their Chinese Mandarin or other names. So so you have these sort of and they have the same problem, obviously, with that, the Han and everything like that. So what I'm trying to say is that that's where the problem sort of stem from, is the fact that we're all speaking English effectively, and it has corrupted our surname. O'Brien's is a great example of one of the things that happened in the 19th century, is that obviously pretty much everyone had dropped the O's and the mucks by and large by the sort of 18th century. And then like say in the 19th century, they tried to re-Gaelicize their names. It was this mass wave of nationalism sweeping across Europe, and the sort of re-Gaelic resurgence. So everyone quickly went and stuck O'Brien in front of their name because they must have been O'Brien. But some of those O'Briens, Brian's also an English name. So some of these families were from English, but over years of intermarriage and stuff like that, changing religion, they become Catholic, they become, Irish essentially. So you had families incorrectly putting O's in front of their names that never had an O in it in the first place. So these are just some of the problems that we have later on.
And then another problem, just to complicate things even more, is the Irish language has changed.
Yeah.
So if you go back to the 14th century and look for an O'Neill, even putting the accent on the E, the father on the E, you won't find any. Because they will probably be writing, instead of writing O or O father, they'll be writing UA. Because the UA changed in modern Irish to O. And then the various words have changed over time. The letters have changed because someone put O'Rahelig, R-A-G-H. That H would not have been a letter. That would have been a dot, the shevu, over the G. It was only in the 1960s that they got rid of the old Irish script and used the same one and got rid of that. So names change.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. I'm just popping around there to see if there's any other topic that I just want to randomly talk about. Just to give Mihal time to charge, because we've been there with the whip for the last hour and a half, just whipping Mihal as usual. Go on.
So Yarrow Leaf is asking about music and origins. He mentions Barry, and the Barrys are old neighbors of Philip, aren't they?
Yeah, they actually are. They're just up the road from me.
Yeah, Barry's Court Castle, which this year has finally been reopened. The OPW were doing it up for about 20 years, I think.
Yeah.
Now it's open again. So I don't know that song where it came from, and a lot of the songs that we have nowadays, they will have come from 18th, 19th century. The tunes could be older, but the lyrics are newer. So they come from a much different system, much different structure. And like the names change dramatically. Like, for example, everybody knows the song about the 1916 Rising, The Foggy Dew. That apparently was an English song. Ewan McCall sings it. The Bugaboo, or it has some funny name. It's the same tune. Words are almost the same. Someone took them, changed it, and made it into a rebel song.
That's wild. But yeah, the Barrys are up the road from me, all right. I went to school with a good few Barrys when I was growing up and stuff. They were originally a part of that kind of Hiberno-Norman connection. But I maybe, Owen, you could elaborate on this stuff as well. But I was saying, just as the quote-unquote Cambro-Normans, the Knights of the Welsh Marshes, and the King's Knights in Ireland, the Anglo-Normans, just as they're settling in around the 1220s, and they're getting on with the local Gaelic in that area, and they're starting to get into the politics of the local area and stuff, and they're then marrying into locals, they're taking on foster children and stuff. I find it funny how they start to then get involved with the blood feuds in those areas and stuff. And I think it's the same with the Barrys and stuff, how they get involved with the blood feuds between the O'Briens and the McCartys and stuff as well. You did a video as well on some of those blood feuds as well, didn't you? If I remember.
Me or Michael?
Yourself, Owen.
I did on some stuff, but not particularly one on blood feud. But that's a good idea. That's a good idea.
Write that
down. The way he said that's a good idea now. Bring up the old blood feuds in the local areas, the bloody McCarthy's.
Yeah, because when you look through the state, even in the 16th century, in the 9 Years' War, Lord Barry stayed a loyalist. He was a Catholic lord, and even though O'Neill plundered his land a lot to try and convince him to come over, he wouldn't. And part of it was because he was fighting with many of the other lords nearby. There were some mad fights, but it's all lords all over Europe were fighting with other lords.
Yeah,
it's a big problem until the end of the 17th century.
So that's why because that's the problem, is that people look at England, but they look at England like it's modern England with a centralized dictatorship and him governing England like all the barons are doing what they're told. That's not the case at all. While these Norman invasions are happening into Ireland and penetrating inward, into the island, England at the time is going from one civil war to the next civil war to the next civil war. While they're doing their initial invasions, Henry II has to fight two, not just one civil war, but he has to fight two civil wars between his own sons, his wife, her name literally pops out of my head all the time.
Matilda.
Matilda. No, that's the mother. Matilda is the empress, isn't she? It's the Eleanor of Aquitaine. And he's going to fight another war against King Philip as well, because technically Henry II should be a vassal of the King of France. So it ends up in this very weird dynamic where Henry II isn't far off becoming emperor, but at the same time, he's kind of got this weird paperwork going on with, King Philip of France. And at the same time as well, he's got civil wars kicking off with his own children. And that's only just with Henry II alone. When Richard takes over, Richard Lionheart takes over, he's fighting a civil war against his own brother, King John. And then, King John takes over, and he goes straight into the Baron Wars, where the barons aren't just trying to kick batter him. They're also battering each other as well. So, yeah, you're bang on right there. This thing is happening not just in Ireland, it's happening throughout all of Europe. But at the same time, I do find it funny when English academics and historians forget these facts and they kind of over-romanticize, impra England and all this kind of stuff. And you're like, wait a minute now, here you go on.
What was the War of Roses but one massive blood feud?
Which, by the way, they recently had done an academic map of all of Europe, had put in all of the barons fighting each other except for their own kingdom. And I looked at the date of it, and this was 1453. And I was like, why if you're doing that to the rest of Europe, especially the Holy Roman Empire, making comments that the Holy Roman Empire was neither holy nor Roman nor empire, but you don't have York independently by itself. What are you doing there? I see what you're up to there, England, with your academic map there, with a unified England during the period of the Wars of the Roses, like. But yeah, funny stuff. Like, go on.
I will just interject just really quickly. I wanted to interject earlier, but you were on a good tangent, so I will just say that anyone that heard about what was mentioned about the De Barrys in Cork, Philip and Owen quite rightly mentioned that they're Anglo-Norman, but there isn't a native Irish branch of Barrys in the exact same area of West Cork, who are from the Cork and Lugda. So, and they got assimilated into the Barrys. They're the O-bearers, and they got assimilated into the Barry population through anglicization. So not everyone from West Cork is from the Norman branch of the De Barrys. There was a sort of native Irish family with a very similar name. There's more on the island. There's some in Mayo, and there's some small branch up in Donegal and another branch up in Limerick. But for the topic of that they said there was an Anglo-Norman family, correct, but there's also a native Irish family in the exact same area. So, which happens a lot in Irish.
Who makes the tea?
Well, it's quite nice tea, so we'll say the Irish.
It's the best.
I'll just expand on what Caveman is saying there, because this is always a point I bring up as well, and then I'll let Michal jump in with one of the surnames again. But the thing that Caveman points out is that by the time we get up to Henry II, it's no longer House Normandy anymore. It's House Anjou that takes over. Everyone seems to forget that because they chucked the term. And don't get me wrong, the word Norman does help simplify the conversation down. But at the same time, everybody's always so quick to chuck the term Norman, Normandy, Norman, Normandy. And it's like, well, Normandy's kind of doing its own thing at this point. Like House Anjou, did they even have the title Duke of Normandy at that point? Do you know? Like House Norman has been usurped by House Anjou. Well, they sort of just kind of take over after King Stephen. But you're dealing with a completely different group. And that's why a lot of academics now are easily sweeping the legs off people when they turn around and they use the term the Norman invasion, because they're like, well, what Norman invasion? Who are the Normans here? Like, and then you have to go into the details of each one of these families, trying to make the argument that, oh, well, it's the Norman invasion because of this family is connected to Normandy this way. And then quickly an academic will turn around and says, yeah, but it's 100 years ago. At what point are they, Welsh or English or anything like that? The point I'm bringing up there is the fact that the invasion of 1169 is much more complicated than what people simplify it when they start chucking out Normandy like no tomorrow. And people need to be careful with that one. Anyway, I think that's bought you enough time there, Michal.
Yeah, no. Kevin was asking about the Mulderics or reeds of Antrim. The Mulderic coming from the O'Neill Garrick the O'Neill Garricks are from Donegal. There's another branch, unrelated family, I believe in Mayo, but the Antrim branch, as far as I'm aware, comes from the Donegal family, who were poets in Tyrconnell. They claim to be descended from it's Mulderic, sometimes anglicized to Reed and Reddington, especially up in Antrim. They might not be related, but I'm pretty sure that they claim it in most part. When I say they claim it, that it can be a modern claim as well. It can be something that their own family groups are sort of claimed later on. But I'm pretty sure they claim to be part of the Donegal Mulderics. So, but yeah, they are like a learned class family traditionally in Tyrconnell.
For sure. And Caveman definitely expanding on what I said there with the Lion's banner of the Anjou Empire representing England, Normandy, and Anjou. That's a funny one as well, the term Anjou Empire, because Henry II was, in my interpretation of the literature, Caveman, and obviously you can, disagree with me on this one and definitely correct me. But I think Henry II was very hesitant to use the term Anjou Empire because of the fact he didn't want to annoy the Anglo-Saxons, the native English living in England at the time, because of the fact that the native English were used to having their own local councils. And when Empress Matilda took over, she was looking to remove the local councils in England and start bringing in more of a centralized dictatorship onto England, which really, really upset the Anglo-Saxons. When Henry II took over, from my understanding, he liked the councils, the Anglo-Saxon councils, because it allowed him to govern France, while he was away and stuff, and just let the barons in England do what they wanted, because he was more focused in France. France was, the civilized area that knew what they were doing. That's my understanding of the literature. Is the fact, he didn't want to upset things in England. And I think that's why a lot of the times he was very hesitant to refer to himself as an emperor or anything like that. Although he could have, in a way, because of his relation from Empress Matilda downwards, and even push for some form of Roman title in the West, So I think that's quite interesting as well. Michal, you look like you've grabbed a name there.
No, I was eating chocolate again.
I'll see what else is going on in the old comment section.
No,
there.
I mean, I've always got a name.
No, work away. Go on.
Yeah,
which one do you want to go for?
No, the Don't Knowable was asking about the Leydens, so I just thought, well, I'll just eat a chocolate.
Go on.
I've always, I love this name. I've always loved the O'Leydens because one of the translations of it is the little ugly one. Yeah. So I've always kind of had a wee bit of it's a bit like the O'Driscolls and the bearer of bad news. So it's these little like translations of the names that sort of make me like giggle and remember their sort of names and stuff. So Leydens, Leydens, all those sort of variations exist. Primarily the family is from Connacht, Western Connacht. But it's not really stated who they descend from in the Connacht, because they could literally be where they are. They could be part of the Ivina, who are the O'Kellys, the Ebruin, who are the O'Connors, the Fiacra, who are the O'Dowds. So they could be really related to any of these like larger royal connections from where they're found, but they're not really. None of their sort of families' histories have ever really given much light on it. It's anglicized sometimes to Ledin, or Leden in Munster, but they are part of the Dalcassians, so they're not related to these families, even though they're sort of found on the same sort of Shannon. But yeah, it's there's not really a lot of history on them. They're not really sort of like well attested. The only thing that ever really came up whenever I searched the name throughout the years is the translation, which is why it's stuck in my head. Yeah, the little ugly one. So yeah, maybe start calling one of my kids the Leydens. It's quite a nice name.
Someone's asking about the O'Driscolls.
Oh, the O'Driscolls. I know a good few O'Driscolls around the place. Go on.
They're a West Cork family. I think their main castle was Castlehaven, which is now called Castle Townsend. And they played a very big role in a naval battle, the Battle of Castlehaven, sort of after the Spanish arrived in Kinsale, and then a couple of weeks later, some Spanish who'd been with the original fleet but driven back to Spain returned, and they got driven by wind, fortunately for them, into Castlehaven. And then the English sent a few ships to sink these Spanish ships. They sailed into the inlet of Castlehaven, but the O'Driscolls and O'Sullivan Beara and the Spanish, they landed guns and they had muskets, etc. And there was a big battle essentially between English ships and the Irish and Spanish forces on the shore. 2 Spanish ships were sunk or driven aground. The English got stuck because of the wind, so the battle went on kind of for 3 days. And then the English went back saying they had sunk all the Spanish, while the Spanish said they sunk 2 English ships on the way back. So and then they were a group that were very connected with the sea. So they were quite important in West Cork.
I'll change the map for you there. Somebody's
I will add. So I'll add a bit of like origin story for them. They were a part of a tribal group called the Coca-Lugda, or Ligda, Coca-Ligda, depending on your pronunciation, found in southwest of Ireland, who are effectively the original rulers of Munster before the rise of the Oonachta. They had Kingdom of Ustragur is one of their satellite states, which became Ossory and then Kilkenny. They and had many branches of that sort of tribal group ruling in there too. So they were quite a powerful group. They're related to likes of the Coffees as well, who are a related branch of them. But they are obviously the O'Driscolls claim to be of the senior kingly line of this tribal group, the more dominant line of it. But they're obviously surpassed later on by the McCarthys and other Owenocta groups quite early on in, I think, the 6th century. Satellite states sort of exist around of the Corca League for a wee while, but effectively by the sort of 8th century, they're completely surpassed. And then the O'Driscolls end up in this little corner of Ireland. So coming from a line that are said to have ruled most of the southern part of Ireland to this tiny wee corner in the bottom right, you know, is a fall from grace, but at least they still had lands.
That's it. And somebody's saying as well that they were related to the O'Learys. I'm not surprised. I'm not shocked, to be honest with you. I don't know about Owen, but I know so many O'Learys and O'Driscolls, especially around Mallow, where I'm from, are just like clicked together, like, you know.
Well, they're all part of the Corca League District. They're all claimed to be in.
Yeah. Owen, you're dying to say something there, yeah?
I was just going to say that my local off license is O'Driscoll's. Very good one.
Yeah, this is the same myself. The moment he said it, I was like, oh, there's a name, but in a few what was it called, things to them, all right. Like there's a traveller community as well, the O'Driscolls. Quite sound out, to be honest with you. They wouldn't be the they have their own reputation, but I get on with them quite well, to be quite honest with you.
I will say that it comes from the first name Hediskull, and it is found in 9th, 10th century, like the annals, etc. As that name does appear in other family trees, so there's possibly other branches that do exist. But they're just not as well recorded. Again, just lost to the waves of time, unfortunately.
Someone is asking David Jones about O'Sullivan Bear, saying, was he the last Gaelic lord to leave Ireland? No. He was one of the last to stop fighting in the 9 Years' War, and then he wasn't granted terms by James. He had managed to annoy James, and so he decided his family were already in Spain, so he went to Spain in 1603. Like, that was 4 years before the flight of the Earls, and then after him, loads of the O'Driscoll lords had already gone to Spain, but in the 17th century there would have been loads of Gaelic Irish ending up in Spain or the Spanish Netherlands. Some went for work in the army, others got driven out at certain periods, or others just went looking for better life.
Love to the Travellers. Yeah, I get on with tons of Travellers, to be honest with you. I get on well with the O'Driscolls, but I used to get on really well with the O'Briens up around the Mallow area and stuff. But they got into a nasty feud recently. So hopefully everything calms down. I think I don't know if Owen probably knows about the feuds that the Travellers have and stuff, but hopefully that's all. I heard it was starting to very much calm down recently, and I can't even remember what was the name of the what was it called, the Traveller group they got into an argument with. I think it was like the Fitzstevens or something Traveller group. I can't remember what the name of the Traveller group was, but it was supposedly very, very bad up around just north of the Mallow region and stuff. So, but I've always gotten on very, very well with the O'Brien Travellers for sure. Like, you've got one there, Michal, do you?
No, I'm catching up now with all the
I'll leave it. So catch up.
Someone asked where the O'Neills come from. Tyrone is associated theoretically in the show in Donegal. Grinon of Alec was where they theoretically started, and then they moved in. Canan moved into Tyrone and Armagh. And so that's where they're most associated with Tyrone and Armagh and parts of Antrim and down. Sort of Tyrone. The name Tyrone means Tir Owen, the land of Owen, Inishowen is the island of Owen. Owen is the son of Niall of the Nine Hostages, and he is their legendary ancestor. So Kennel Owen are the descendants of Owen. The O'Donnells belong to Kennel Connell, which was Connell was another son of Niall of the Nine Hostages. So that's O'Neill's in 30 seconds.
Yeah. What was it called? My comment section again saying about the traveller community and the O'Driscolls of Limerick. Yeah, I get on with the O'Driscolls of Limerick as well. From Limerick down to Mallow, I have no problems with them. You know yourself, they're definitely somebody you don't want to be going up to them and giving them shite talk and stuff. But at the same time, as long as you don't give any problems to your O'Driscolls and you leave them alone, they're grand. I think they're perfectly fine. I think they're a good bunch of lads overall. And what was it called? See if there's any other comments I want to tear apart.
Well, we've only got really got 10 minutes left, haven't we? So,
are you pumping away in 10 minutes? Is it?
Well, it'd be 2 o'clock. We're 12 to. Or why are we doing this? How long are we doing this for?
I to be honest with you, I can easily just chat because the purpose of this one compared to the Wednesday night one for you guys. The Wednesday night one is the one that you get your PowerPoint presentation. We do an old talk about because this Wednesday we're talking about the Gaelic resurgence in Ireland, which is going to be just after the Scottish War of Independence. And I can't, Owen, you're going to have to tell me if I told you or not. I can't remember if I sent this message or not because I tell myself one thing and then I think you did it, Yeah, which is
I don't know what the message is, but I think you sent it to me. You basically want me to lead.
Yeah, basically at the start of it, and then I'll take over after 1370. And the reason why I'll take over 1370 is because I did the work with Art MacMurrough Kavanagh up to his death at New Ross around 1403. Up to around 1420, which is grand because that's the point where it goes into the crack to do with James the usurper Fitzgerald and Seamus the White Earl Butler, who they end up taking up because you have the King of England who's kind of not all there. He thinks he's made of glass, and then you have Tolbert who gets into the weirdest feud with the Butlers and the Fitzgeralds, but he has to fight Joan of Arc at the same time. So he goes over to Joan of Arc in France to go and fight her. And while he's away, the boys turn around to themselves and they say to themselves, sure, we haven't actually gotten into war with England. We have a feud with Tolbert. And technically speaking, that's a private war, not a war with the King of England, right? Although Tolbert is supposed to be the king's representative in Ireland. So and that's very important because Seamus, although he's been fighting the English colonists and he's been fighting Tolbert, he highlights again and again and again that, sure, I've been very loyal. I'm very radically loyal to the King of England. And so he uses that then to pop over to England. He goes, while Tolbert is in France, himself and Fitzgerald go for a holiday over to England to see his cousins and stuff. And I remember I was going through those sources for that with Rachel, and Rachel thought it was the most comical thing ever that these guys had spent 20 years harassing, bullying and torturing the English colonists, only for Seamus to turn around and say, sure, I'm loyal to the King of England. It's grand for me to go on holiday, to go see the relatives, Only in Ireland, only the Irish would have that idea of going into the land that they were fighting with and going for an old holiday. I think it's just typical Irish,
Someone has asked. Austria has asked about modern chiefly recognition. I have strong views on that.
What you do, right, is you raise a military force and you just go and take a piece of land in Ireland and you watch the Irish government do nothing. And technically speaking, if you take down over that land and you own it for a certain period of time, don't you get squatters' rights? Is squatter rights still a thing, or is that done away with yet?
Not really.
And anyway, my argument is, sure, if you own the land long enough and you have the military force to hold that land, and the Irish government is going to do anything because, then it would start burning into taxpayers' money that they're already pocketing. You could literally call yourself anything you want, in my opinion. But, that's my opinion, by the way. I wouldn't go running away with it.
I like the community creation of it, in a modern time, but as in everyone getting together. If you can trace chiefly lines, great. It's all a bit nice and a bit, but as a political arm, or like the lords have in England, no, just I treat it the same way I treat a coat of arms. It would be modern in nature, but they're a good little symbol to rally behind once a year for little gatherings and stuff like that. And I think, and I often like the Muslim world and India and stuff like that, where they have a strong clan ethic and where resources are applied together and stuff like that, and communities are built from it. I think that's a great idea. If you can have these connections just through large, wider family connections, whether you're really related or not is irrelevant, behind a single symbol or surname, where you can sort of say, oh, well, I met so-and-so from Washington who owns a business, and if you want to move out there, you can sort of, work with this individual. I think it's great, and that's the way it should be used, not as any sort of like clan rights to land or political arms or anything like that.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think when a community does it, when they sort of, it's something that, a bunch of O'Neills, a bunch of O'Briens elect an O'Neill or an O'Brien, that's fine. But there are many who claim descent. And what really gets me annoyed about this is they claim Gaelic kingly title or Gaelic lordly titles using English law. Because it's not primogeniture. And then you have people like, there was a case, this guy claimed to be McCarthy Moore, in the early 2000s or 1990s, and he got recognized by that heraldry office in Dublin. And it turned out he was from Belfast. He wasn't even McCarthy. And there's somebody I've seen online who's claiming to be an O'Sullivan and has invented an O'Sullivan tartan and stuff like that. And I read it, and I think that's absolutely ridiculous. He said some Moldovan or Romanian prince or claimant prince has acknowledged his claim, so therefore he's of royal blood. Terence the Hoaxer is the McCarthy guy. So I think when people do it, it's fine. To me, the Gaelic titles ended. Basically 1603 and definitely after Cromwell. Some families can trace descent, but many people can trace descent. Like sort of, because through women, through men, through second sons, etc. It wasn't primogeniture.
Well, we're all descended. I think there's a famous, I can't remember it, but we're all descended from kings. There's a very famous
saying. And peasants.
I mean, yeah.
No one wants to claim that we're all peasants.
Oh no, us Doyles were always peasants. There's very few famous Doyles in the annals. I've got to say that. But yeah, I mean, I've had people from the diaspora come and go, what castle do I claim? And I says, well, you can take a brick from it, because there's so many descendants that you would all only inherit a brick each. So you're better just leaving it there. And it's so true in that sense. But like I say, it's as a community thing, because we've already established that there's three known locations for the Barrys. But, most people aren't going to know who they are. So you just unite behind the name, and you celebrate the three origins. And you have these like chiefly lines and stuff like that. Like I say, if it's elected in good faith and it's just, it's and a bit of, jovialness and good crack, that's all we're all asking, then I think but you will know, Philip, there's some groups whenever you start getting people together, especially in the reenactment world, who maybe get a bit too taken a bit too seriously.
yeah, that's what my wife bitches about all the time, and that's what makes her slightly. And Owen will bitch about this as well. Well, Owen bitched about more. I don't know how Owen feels about this. Actually, I would love to know what Owen thinks about this. Actually, is people who put on the old and they forget it's a costume. They like, don't get me wrong, it's meant to be as historically accurate as possible, but ultimately you're putting a costume on and suddenly they have become the role. And it's like, you're not, technically speaking, you're not an actor. And also, you are not, especially if they put on clothing from Dublin and they start walking around the place like, I'm a Viking. And it's like, oh, Jesus Christ, please calm down, will you? I've seen that. And that's exactly what Michal is talking about there, is lads who put on clothing that they have, they for the comment section there, myself and Michal, we do living history. And the two groups that we're in, Michal's group specializes in clothing to do with Dublin, and my group specializes in clothing to do with Cork. So it's a clothing mixed around the area, which is Hiberno-Scandinavian, which is, Gaelic and Norse clothing mixed together to make Hiberno-Scandinavian clothing. So our groups look at the finds and stuff, and we look at what's happening in the local area between the trade between Norway and Ireland, and then we can put these clothes together, looking at the likes of the Books of Kells and the effigies in Clonmacnoise. So we have a fair idea on how to construct these clothing and stuff. And so we have lads that put that clothing on, but some of the lads, they put it on and they think, I'm a Viking, and they behave just as bad as lads who go through their DNA and they find that, 1% Norwegian DNA, and they're like, oh, I'm a Viking. And it's like, oh, Jesus Christ, will you ever calm down, will you? I don't know how Owen feels about all that kind of stuff as well.
I think reenacting is fine if you first of all, I'm more interested in the people like the two groups you described who try and build something based on history. But in any hobby and anything in the world, there's always people who go crazy. Like, I'm sure if we were Napoleonic guys and like reenactors, there people say, "Oh, those buttons are wrong. Those buttons were only used until 1803. The emperor said in 1804 change the buttons to blue or whatever." Sort of, especially before, and like even in Napoleonic times, you have everyone's wearing whatever, the blue or the red on day 1, but on day 20 they're all kind of dirty, torn, missing stuff. And it would be the same with Vikings. It would be the same with Gaelic Irish. It would be the same with any, like, you're going to have a huge mix. Like, you have a battle, and hey, look, here's a better sword, or this hat of this English guy, that suits me, I like it. It's going to be a big mix. So,
massively. Yeah.
So if you're over the top about anything, count me out. It's just boring.
Yeah, I do disagree with that as well. Obviously, I'm not going to name names here, but there is a very famous living historian. Owen probably knows him, and he's very much like that. If it's not Gaelic Irish, you're not allowed to wear it. And it's like, academics have proven that, especially around the area of Dublin, you're dealing with a Hiberno-Scandinavian mix in there. And, I think basics are basics there. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying there's no Smiths in Ireland. As Michal has argued a few times, not only do you have the Anglo-Smith names in Ireland, but you also have Gaelic families as well that are clearly Smith families that forge their own weapons and armour. But at the same time, as Owen has pointed out there, if you have a Gaelic man from Clonmacnoise and he gets into a fight with a quote-unquote Viking from Dublin and he beats the Viking man from Dublin, but the Viking man has a better sword, he's going to pick that sword up, and he's going to go back to Clonmacnoise with his new fancy Viking sword. I think that's common sense. So when I do come across living historians who are like, oh, you can't have that. That's a Viking sword. You're not allowed that. You're from Clonmacnoise. I'm like, that makes no sense. If you have a feud between Clonmacnoise and Dublin, Clonmacnoise is going to be taking the better kit and weapons. Like, that's my opinion, on that.
Yeah, like there must have been loads of male shirts I don't even know. I presume some Vikings had mail shirts. I'm not
big time.
These armor details I don't know.
Yeah.
Around the place, from shipwrecks, from battles, sort of like, and I'm sure armor was bopping from one side to the other constantly.
Big time. This is that's a very good point, because the Battle of Clonmacnoise, for example, now it doesn't help that later sources from the O'Briens themselves tried to make out that they were the poor Irish that didn't have any armor. But that's not with Sean Duffy. Sean Duffy and Patrick
I'll be back
Wallace.
in 5 minutes, just 1 second.
Oh yeah, take your time. Yeah. But Sean Duffy and Patrick Wallace have done the archaeological digs in Dublin, and with the tributes that go from Dublin to Clonmacnoise, because Clonmacnoise had subjugated Dublin in 840, way before 1014, with the Battle of Clontarf. It proves that the Battle of Clontarf would have had both sides in the Battle of Clontarf would have been covered in mail shirts, which means that they were both sides were completely armored up going into the Battle of Clontarf. This idea of naked Irishmen going against fully armored Vikings makes absolutely no sense. Plus, it would lead to the Vikings just completely wiping out. And when I say Vikings, by the way, I'm just talking about the men of Dublin. I'm not talking about Norwegians. But the men of Dublin would have completely wiped out Brian Brew's men, going into the Battle of Clontarf, and all the other Gaelic as well. Looking at Sean Duffy's account and the tributes that are going into places like Clonmacnoise, the Northern Inale territories, and places like Cork and the Dalcash territories, we know that going into the Battle of Clontarf, fellas would have been completely covered up in armor, and if you weren't covered in armor, you would die very quickly. At least have some kind of padded armor going into that battle for sure. Micheál, you've done living history for a good bit. If you had no armor going into any skirmish or battle, you're not going to last too long against somebody who's armored, would you?
I mean, you're not going to. It's hard to last long enough even with armor. So and take that. Any of you that were in the live the other day will know that at one time I was knocked unconscious and had concussion for 3 months, and I was wearing armor, and we weren't doing. The weapon wasn't even sharp. So, you're going to be making sure that you've got armor on.
Did you hear about that, Owen, when Micheál was doing Viking martial arts? He was doing full contact Viking martial art. And the Dane axe, the double-handed Viking axe? There was a lad literally plonked him dead center in the helmet and just knocked Micheál out of it.
Jeez.
You were gone for about 3 months, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was out of it I had concussion for 3 months, so I wasn't allowed to take part in the in any of the contact.
There are those English twins, the Perrys. They're big into living history, and they make soldiers, like models.
Yeah.
And one of them lost his hand. They were in France doing something, and a cannon fired or misfired, and it the guy's hand was so badly mangled. He lost his hand.
Jesus, that's hard. All right, accidents could easily happen. I'm very, very much strict when it comes down to health and safety, especially anything to do with gunpowder. I've seen plenty of gunpowder problems in the past. What was it, Caveman? Micheál, anytime you want there, you can knock me to the side to take out another name if you want. But I'll pop over to Caveman's comment there. Caveman, do you do reenactment with Micheál? Because it sounds like what was it called? You're within Micheál's circles, because Micheál does the Dublin reenactment as well with the E-Nails.
I have been out of for a couple of years though, just while I was doing this.
Sorry, not E-Nails, E-Emers. They're butchering my Irish again. Because what was it called? Micheál's group is the Sons of Ivor. Are you jumping back in with them again for next summer, or are you chilling for another bit?
We'll see.
Well, not chilling. I mean, working on that.
I keep meaning to. I spoke to the quote unquote leader of it last year and said I wanted to come back, but I just found it very hard to find the time to commit to it. So and I work weekends at the minute, which obviously doesn't help. Oh yeah, he does the same fighting style as
Yeah, because Michal was in Sons of Ivor for a bit. You're probably in the same circle. I bet you know you guys have probably gone to the same events together. It's like, as I'm looking at there going, that's the exact same circles as bloody Michal. Like,
there you go.
oh, yeah, see, there you go. There you go. There.
There you go. You'll know,
It's up
you'll
to
know all
two
the
you
good
actually
lads.
know it, but within the same circles. There you
go.
It's funny, just mentioning about armor against armor. Sometimes like in the Elizabethan Wars and other times, the Irish had less armor, and that was an advantage for them at times because they could run quicker.
Yeah.
Because if someone is chasing you wearing armor, if you just jump out of the way, you can wear them out. And I know that James O'Neill in his book on the 9 Years' War mentions that at times the English just began to throw away their armor because it was all fighting either with pikes or with the muskets. So they were finding the armor wasn't good, so they throw it away so it could go faster.
Yeah, 100%. If you're looking at cattle warfare, 1 second, I'll get this moving up again. Oh no, my PC's decided it wants to go sleep. Well, that's working. 1 second. Oh, just give us a second there. She's acting funny. Oh yeah, there she is, back up again. But 1 second there. So this is the Book of Kells, where it shows this is called the Book of Kells Warrior, and in it it shows a kern just with his widgie out. Watch out for his widgie there, I'll poke you. But he has a buckler and a spear, and he just has the quarter-length pants. And he would be mostly for cattle raids and stuff. So anytime you look at like the likes of the Finn cycle or any sources, and it talks about cattle raiding, it will normally describe clothing like this, the quarter-length pants. He's got a lot of people do believe he has, and I believe as well, he's got a cloak on. So that's a cloak on over his shoulders to keep him nice and warm. And he's got a buckler. It's very interesting because that's an early medieval buckler. That's not a late medieval buckler. And he has a spear as well. And that's great for skirmish fighting, for dueling, not great for the classic conventional fighting, spear on spear fighting. Anytime you have, if you look at the Tomb Bakule, for example, when you do have spear on spear fighting, they chuck on armor on top of that one. I would say they definitely put on Gambinson, which is padded armor on. There's always an argument and debate between myself and the comment section and stuff about the usage of leather armor. The problem I have with leather armor, although it does describe something like leather armor in the Tomb Bakule, I'm a bit hesitant for it. But regardless, when it comes down to skirmish fighting, dueling, anything of that nature, this is how they were dressed during the early medieval period. And the era that, what's it called, Owen O'Neill just described there is the late medieval Renaissance, where you'd see more kind of this depiction for the likes of cattle raiders, the kerns, people who would be involved with the likes of cattle raiding and dueling and all that sort of stuff. And it's quite interesting as well because the ring swords are something that a lot of specialists in warfare absolutely fall in love with. So not only do we have the old bucklers and stuff during the early medieval period, which is absolutely fascinating, but we have really super unique swords in Ireland, which makes dueling and skirmishing absolutely so fascinating to study. Obviously, if you look there on the far left, we have the old, what people refer to, and Owen O'Neill can correct me on this one, the cleave more, as is pronounced in Irish, and then which is, if you guys are turning around and saying, is that Claymore in the Anglo version? Yeah, from my understanding, it is, unless Owen O'Neill will correct me on that one. And then on the center,
I think it is.
Yeah, and then on the center there, we have a regular cleave, and then the anglicized version of that is an Irish ring sword. So if you just type in a regular cleave, it should pop up, or the reenactment group cleave will pop up instead. And then on top of that as well, if you're looking for the English version of it, just type in Irish ring sword. Cleave just means sword in English, so you're not going to find it that way. And those Irish ring swords are so fascinating. Obviously, that's one that's cut off. I think if you look at this one, it's got more of the side. But when it comes down to dueling and anything of that nature, Oh, absolutely. Because it's so well balanced. And these are swords that are definitely produced within the Gaelic world, or at least, that blur between the Anglo-Irish world of the Desmond Fitzgeralds, the McSweeneys, the O'Briens and stuff, and the O'Neills and that whole group and stuff. And as Michal there would easily talk about the different families that were involved with the smith work in Ireland and stuff. Absolutely so fascinating to study. And it's even more interesting still because of the likes of the blade and the hilt and everything in that is a European influenced, which highlights the fact that Ireland this isn't something that the likes of the O'Briens and the O'Neills just kind of woke up one day and went, I'm going to invent the Irish ring sword. You can see the influences in the way that weapon is designed for sure.
Yeah.
Just two questions, 2 points have come up. Jim O'Neill is asking about smoothbore or rifle barrels. I think rifle barrels only. I think in the 17th century, you have some individual ones have rifle barrels, but on mass-produced guns, it's only post-Napoleon or like late 18th, early 19th century. So the period we're talking about, it didn't really exist. And Cuivon is talking about forest ambushing. The Gaelic Irish were very, very good. Like when they would fight in a forest, etc., it's not always an ambushing. They would use the forest as a natural fortification, and they could be in there. And there's something called plashing, whereby they would essentially tie the branches of the trees together to make an almost impenetrable defense. And they could be there and they say, hey, to the English, come and get us. The English would know they were there, but they wouldn't go in a lot of the time because they knew they'd get beaten.
I've always wondered if those tactics, I'll just remove that one so we can see on again. But I do wonder if those tactics that we see in the 9 Years' War, if we see roots of that, quite literally roots of that, going back to the, Richard II in Ireland from around 1370 to around 1399, because of the fact that when his forces go up into the Wicklow Mountains to fight Art MacMorrough in 1399, you can see those skirmishes where they're slowly but surely tearing up the English forces. I think originally some people say it's about a force of 8,000 the English had, and then you have other sources that reckon that the force in total was 30,000. Very debatable, of course, but ultimately what I'm trying to say is that what you're dealing with is a much more smaller force by the Irish taking on a much far larger force from the English. And I do wonder if some of those tactics that we've seen in the 9 Years' War was originally used by the likes of Art MacMorrough Kavanagh back in the late medieval period of 1399.
I wouldn't say that they were descended. I would say, because each period, the way you fight depends on your technology, the landscape, the environment you're fighting in, who you're fighting, how much money you have, etc., and the technology. So Hugh O'Neill's forces, they were based around the Cavalier musket, which was a musket, but it was very short range. And you can find like 90% of military history about medieval Europe and early modern Europe, it's written about the big countries, about the main parts, England against Spain, against France. But much more of Europe was sort of regional areas where you had in between forms of fighting. I think most of the fighting was small numbers. When you have an army marching through a forest, it's only natural that people there are going to use the way that Art MacMorrough fought, that Fiach MacHugh fought. Like I know there were some in Croatia, etc. There were some. I think the ancestors of the Hussars were based in Croatia. They had some funny way of fighting there. The same like the Irish hobbler was used, as we mentioned the other day, was used in the 100 Years' War. So possibly there are some descendants, but the way wars are fought is much more is more short term.
Just popping back over the caveman's thing there. The kilt is not Irish. I just want to cover that one there because and Owen O'Neill will probably be able to expand on that one as well. In the period of the 16th century, we do have the great kilt. Yeah, there we go. So this can be put under the bracket of a great kilt and stuff. Now, this is mostly referred to in Ireland as a brat. But the Redshanks, they start to come over. And as Rachel has pointed out a good few times, the creative Contessa, she has pointed out a good few times that from the period of the Scottish War of Independence onwards, you have, mini ice ages that come in. And it seems to definitely influence the clothing in Ireland. And it's so frustrating. And Michal and Owen could definitely expand on this one, where you have all these penal laws that start to come out. And the English in London are very, very anti the Irish wearing this sort of clothing because they see it as very savage Irish, not like the good old English that are wearing the best of European clothing. And that's great for European style clothing because European style clothing is made for, more centralized Europe and stuff. But when you're out in Scotland and Ireland, you kind of want to wear clothes that keep you nice and warm, especially against this kind of mini ice age that are coming in. And so they start producing much more warmer clothes to wear. One of the major clothing that come out of Scotland at this time is the great kilt, which the Redshanks, the Scottish mercenaries, wear to put it around themselves. And then they wear a belt over that. Now, this is where the word kilt comes in, is where they get the belt and they put it over. Sorry, they get the great kilt and they put it over the belt. So the belt goes on, they wrap it around their hips, and then they get the the great kilt itself, and they start to kilt it over the belt. And that's where the term kilting comes in. So that's how it is during, I think, coming up to the late 16th century. And those great kilts, which are basically cloaks that the Scottish are wearing, slightly different to what this is here, the cloaks, especially what's referred to as a brat. And it's slightly different to that. However, that's referred to, the Scots have one called the great kilt, big massive cloak goes around them, and those great kilts are plaided, which are we guys referred to as tartan much more later on. Now, on top of that, these Scottish mercenaries that are coming over with their great kilts that are plaided, those are not set per clan. There is no clan that has per set plaids. You get that question a lot as well because they're mixing up the later 18th century. So in the later the 19th century, not even the 18th century, the 19th century, then you have tartans set to families, but not in the case of the 16th century. I'm right in saying that, aren't I, Dr. O'Neill?
Yeah. Just one point you missed. The Irish mantle was a big export. The Irish, it was exported to the continent. They were in big demand. I don't know who demanded them, but they were.
This is what I find hilarious as well, is for every campaign that Richard II was doing in Ireland, every single time people went into the wagons and stuff and kept account of it and stuff, it talked about the Irish cloaks. Like they were banning, and it's quite literally the description that's in the statutes of Kilkenny. And I can't remember if Rachel was looking at it as well, but in the statutes of Kilkenny, it outright bans the usage of the brat because it was seen as wild Irish clothing. And yet the English nobles in England itself, that are nodding away and agreeing to this kind of stuff themselves, and Richard II, when they're in Ireland, steal these brats and go back to Ireland with them. Sorry, not Ireland, bloody England. With them and they must be wearing it around their castle and stuff. So I do find it very, very cheeky that the Irish are not allowed to wear these clothing because it breaks the statutes of Kilkenny, but yet the English are. That's quite funny. Like, I do think so.
I'm going to head off
Yeah, that's grand.
I've been waiting for a bloody emergency doctor to ring back. Bloody South Doc.
It's the same up in the north. It's the same up in the north.
Like if I'd called the ambulance, they would have been here. But my daughter is asleep, so she's better. So I just wanted to speak to her doctor, but I've given up. So I will say good night.
All right. Be safe there, Owen. I'll see you again on Wednesday night. We'll cover the Gaelic resurgence then. If you want to support Owen O'Neill's work, head over to his channel. His Buy Me a Coffee will be up there, and just give him a couple of bob there.
And I should have a new video coming out on Sunday.
Happy
Sunday
days.
evening or Monday.
Okay. Be safe there, Owen. I'll see you when I see you there. Right. See you.
Bye-bye.
Be safe now. Boom, boom, boom. Michal, do you see anybody you like yet?
No, I saw a few throughout, but we were on topics that sort of overlapped and stuff like that. So I didn't want to interrupt with any two, but I won't be too far behind on because I have work in like 3.5 hours. So
that's grand. I'm just going to check there if his channel is still running, so you can keep those views going. But as long as I think you'll be grand as long as you don't. He's plowing away, so he's still making money on that, so that's grand. But what I'll do is I'll probably either finish up, or I'll just continue plowing away with a few other questions and stuff, because there's a few other stuff I'll cover after you've gone off to bed. And then half an hour or so after that, then I'll finish up as well. But I'll be grand, because the great thing about this multi-stream as well is even when yourself and Owen leave, you can still keep, plowing away with the advertisement side of it as well, with the ad revenue coming in and stuff. So you're sorted in that regard.
Well, I'll leave the camera on, and then people can watch me sleeping in the background, and that might draw in new people as well.
Here, you can't say that doesn't work. I've seen people donate to sleeping people before, so can't say that doesn't work.
I can't even remember now, just because of I can't even remember the individuals that asked these names, but I'm just gonna reel off a couple that I remember throughout our chat whenever we were chatting earlier and stuff like that. So someone asked for the Nolans. It's an Irish Norman name. You have the most famous ones are the Carlow Norlands from an area called Forth or O'Neillanes. And then there's another group from the Cork Lira who are from West Cork, so they're related to the O'Bearers and etc. And then you have the Norman from the Nolans. So there's those branches too that exist for Nolans. The McElhenney from I can't remember his name, but he's regular enough. Sorry, your name's popped out of my head though, just because I'm just trying to remember as many names as I can. There's quite a few of them, not unrelated to Seps. There's quite a few up in the north. They're all related to the Kenilworth, and they're all pretty much from the same branch. So they're found in Donegal is the main area for them. It's heavily associated with the northeast of Ulster, and it's sometimes anglicized to Kenny as well. So and Kilkenny. So anywhere you see those sort of names, obviously there you go. Because it's named Kilkenny, there's some are associated with Kilkenny. I don't know if they're related or not, but I know that the branch did spread down to Connacht. So it's quite possible that they spread down further from there. Who else?
You're no sleepies now.
Oh yeah, I am. Thinking of all these names and where they come from and stuff like that it gets tiring on the little old brain. Who else? Someone was asking about what was it? Harrington's. I had to think of Kit Harrington there just to get that to come to my brain.
Oh, I did the same thing as well to get my brain knocking. I was like, who's that again? And I always think of a local around the place. And oh, yeah, that family. Yeah, it's almost I get the brain going as well.
Yeah, exactly. And so Kit Harington, well, I think his family is the English branch that invented the toilet, but and they're associated with Harringtons are associated with like West Cork, South Kerry, but associated primarily with areas like Tipperary as well. So that's the locations they're sort of associated with historically. And I think it's like Hinderdale is one variation of it. But those are sort of the main areas that name is traditionally associated with. Someone else complained that we didn't do anything on the McGinnises. But the McGunguses or the McGungisa. There's McGinnises are primarily associated with Evra, part of the Echo Cobo, who are a tribal group from County Down, that's the main. They descend from, that's my area, that's where I grew up. So they've been lords of the area I grew up in. But yeah, they're part of the Ullid effectively. So they're from the Ive. But there was quite a few. My overlords would have been the McGinnises of Rathfreeland. But anyway, so that's where they're mostly associated with. That's their core medieval territory. But they did spread out from there multiple directions. Who else? I can't remember.
We can set you off the bed there. You're starting to collapse there. Go on.
I'm starting to collapse. I think that's all the ones I can remember.
The thing is, lads, we have next week as well, where I'm gonna start doing this as a weekend thing as well. So we don't have to do every single surname of Ireland tonight. Like,
it might not be the weekend for me, but we'll see. We'll give you dates whenever. It all depends on when I'm working, but we'll try and make out.
But the Saturday night, we'll see when you're working and stuff as well, because we can easily, obviously, Owen can easily jump in, and this is the same with Rachel and stuff as well. So we don't have to cover every single Irish name in Ireland as well, because Michal, you also have members only as well, don't you?
Yeah, I do members only live on Thursday nights where family histories are covered. Although we do general history as well, so where we've covered the Norman invasion of Munster, the families that were involved in that, so both on the Norman side and the Irish side, and we're going into. So we've done the initial invasion, and we're going into the 13th and 14th century.
Oh, nice.
Next week. So again, we'll be talking about the families who are now involved, because a lot of the Norman lines sort of die out, or it goes through female lines, or they've peeved off the king, so they're no longer holding the lands, etc. No. So so we're just doing that. So if you want to come across on a Thursday, become a member. It's as cheap as 99p. It's I don't.
And that's on TikTok, is it?
No, this is on. I come to YouTube because TikTok is having problems with me, and
typical.
But
so we'll head over to your what was it called? Your YouTube, and we'll subscribe. All you have to do is subscribe, isn't it? On your what was it called? Clans and Dynasties on YouTube.
Yeah, just subscribe, and then if you want to become a member, like I say, you can be a member for as cheap as 99p, and you get a weekly, and you get to pick the topic too. I've started holding a vote, so you get to vote for the next topic.
Happy days. I leave you there, Michal, and I'll leave you go off to bed because you got work again tomorrow, don't you?
I have work in 3.5 hours. So
Jesus Christ, what are you even doing here?
No, I had a nap earlier, so that's why it's not too bad now. But I do need to get the rest. A nap isn't enough to sustain me. So, it's Wrath. Is it Rathfreeland or Rathfriland?
Right. You're too sleepy now for this kind of stuff, right? We'll do next weekend, right? Was it next Friday night? We'll see if we can get you back on. If not, you guys can have another chat with myself, right? Rachel's definitely going to be jumping on. Hopefully, we'll get Owen O'Neill to jump back on as well, and we'll just do what we did today. Just have a casual chat away about Irish medieval history. Then on top of that as well, Wednesday, guys, we're going to be covering the Gaelic resurgence of Ireland. That's free. This is free as well. Remember, what day is that? Thursday for you, isn't it? For your members only. Your members only is on Thursday, right? So Thursday, you're members only, so you can pay to join Michal's members only on the Thursday night. My one for a Sunday night, which I am covering King John in Ireland. So if you want to know about the history of King John of Ireland, head over to my Patreon, will ya? Absolutely gorgeous page it is. So that's on my Patreon, right? You can donate whatever you feel like. The great thing is lower tax on that one, so I get more of the money on my side of things, compared to YouTube and stuff. So I do prefer people jumping over to my Patreon if they want to support my channel. On saying that, Sunday nights, if you're living in America or in Europe, pump on over on a Sunday night. We're going to be covering, and that's 20 quid a month. We're going to be covering, King John in Ireland. So if you want to do a full-on class, 2-hour class on King John in Ireland, head on over to my Patreon, 20 quid a month. Every Sunday night, we're doing a class, okay? The following week after that, we're going to be covering the likes of William Marshall in Ireland and all that kind of stuff as well. So if you're interested in any of that kind of stuff, definitely head on over to my Patreon, or if you just want to support the classes, full stop. Michael, I'll leave you be. I'll leave you go off to sleep, and I will start waffling on about the Red Shanks. Now, sadly, I won't have the same specialization as Michal. Michal does actually specialize in Scottish and Irish clans. However, I will be rocking on and covering some of these questions to do with the likes of the Red Shanks and the Tartan. Oh, and one more thing as well. We also have a live stream on Monday night as well with the likes of Militia Shields. Dr. Militia Shields is coming on Monday night as well, where she's going to be covering Gaelic clothing. So look forward to that as well. Michal, what are you still doing here? Get out of it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, do I click leave or does that close?
Just X out of it. I think if it's still there, I can always what's it called? I think if you just press out X out of it, it's grand, because Owen O'Neill's thing is still bopping away there. It's still live and he's still bopping away. So I think if you just press X, maybe it should be grand.
All right, Slán.
All right, Slán go full. See you when I see you. Bam, bam, bam. Thank God he's gone. No bitch about him. Red Shanks. What was the question there? I just want to cover some of these general questions in the comment section, and obviously boost up my ad revenue for a wee bit. Irish clones as bra, also used in combat. I could imagine it all right, especially with the buckler and sword. The problem is that some of the fighting styles have gone missing. We don't know what the Gaelic martial art was like. They are pushing right now to do experimental archaeology around Viking martial art, which is also helping Gaelic martial art as well. So just experimenting with the buckler and spear, or the sword and spear. The problem with that, because of health and safety reasons, like if you look at that fella, he's got no gloves. But when people do modern Viking martial art, which is the umbrella term for both Gaelic martial art and Norwegian martial art and Icelandic martial art as well, is they're all wearing health and safety leather gloves, which if you look there is no leather, there's no gloves there. He's not wearing any gloves. So the problem is that the martial art that they are developing may have not looked like the martial art that, the likes of the Kerns and stuff would have done back in the early medieval period. And he would have, as you can see there, and Caveman has clearly noticed as well, he's wearing a cloak, which is going to affect his movements, But the argument is that perhaps Caveman is making there as well, and Caveman can easily correct me on that one, is the fact that from that thing is being able to hide the buckler or the weapon itself, depending on which way you've got the brooch. Because normally they put on the brooch, it can either be here or here, but it's going to cover one side of your body. And that allows you to either hide your secondary weapon, which would have been either the axe, as Gerald de Wales says later on, or your spear. Okay, so that does affect, and because you can see a good chunk of his arm there is hiding his shield, his shoulder and stuff, which may have then hid the spear. So it's much more difficult, especially when you're dueling, predict which way that movement has gone. But that would be for dueling and skirmish purposes. I should have put up a spear wall, and I have not. If you're fighting around these areas here that are in blue, which happen to be dominated by the Anglo-Irish, you're dealing with more flatland areas and stuff where you see more kind of conventional style warfare of the likes of the pikes and the spears, and even the castles. The castles are more conventional style, castles that we see in the likes of Trim Castle, for example. So there's Trim Castle there. Very kind of more European style compared to, now obviously this still fits somewhat within the European style, but this is more of the kind of Gaelic castles that we start to appear, which is much more better allegedly for more kind of cattle raiding warfare of protecting the cattle, but still debatable today, because obviously this is way like the likes of Trim Castle, Carrickfergus? Carrickfergus Castle will go with that category. I'm thinking about Carlow Castle, and also even two Gaelic castles that are better for conventional warfare, like Bunratty Castle and also Blarney Castle. Those castles are proper for good old-fashioned conventional warfare. But if we look back into this map, then again, castles that we'd find more in the northeast of the island would be much more better for, much more clan warfare, cattle raiding, stuff like that. But obviously, everything I'm saying there, very debatable. Castle archaeologists, people who specialize in castles and stuff, huge arguments there, even from the linguistic side of the usage of the terms that come with the castle and stuff, how were castles used in Ireland. But on saying that, you can easily see a mile away the differences in the development between castles on the southeast of the island, where we see more traditional conventional warfare, compared to the northeast of the island, where we see more kind of ambush, we see more skirmish fighting, we see more cattle raiding and stuff, but this is the magic thing about the Spanish as well, is the fact that with Spanish style fighting, it has a massive influence going from the Iberian Peninsula over to Ireland as well. So it's not even a case of, Ireland being an isolated island, which many people imagine. You have those connections from the Iberian Peninsula going over to Ireland. Continuous, by the way. This isn't just something that happens in the 16th century. Even in the early medieval period, we have that kind of Celtic connection. And that could easily be found. A lot of historians point out the connection linguistically as well, how the Irish language affects those Celtic languages between Brittany and then up to the north of Spain as well. So I definitely would agree that there is an Iberian, as they would say at the time, an Iberian Peninsula influence going into Ireland, and most likely probably affected the fighting styles, and maybe even made a difference between the fighting style that we see with the Kerns against the Vikings of Dublin and stuff, where the men of Dublin would have had that more of a Norwegian influence coming into the island of Ireland, and then obviously later on then those areas like the Pale gets the more of the Anglo Irish influence inside there. Fascinating stuff when you really think about it, how fighting styles change and develop, not just by the terrain, but what influences those areas as well. Is Gaelic martial art more like Great Britain? We just don't know. It's just missed. Like everything I just said there is complete speculation, Jim, to be quite honest with you. A lot of the times, because as Caveman had pointed out there as well, like look at that cloak. You can see he's clearly in a back stance. That's a back stance he's taking there. Obviously, because of the way our bodies have developed today, very difficult to do. But this is a moment just as he's lunging back, using his two backlands to lunge forward. So you can see the cloak is there. So the cloak makes it more difficult to see when that shoulder's moving. Because if we can predict the movement of the shoulders, we can block that, we can parry that before the spirit goes in. But if we're covering that with the cloak, it changes the martial art. And as Caveman has pointed out there, we can see those influences coming in from the Iberian Peninsula into the Gaelic martial art, where the Vikings may have not. Because if we look at the likes of the Nal saga and stuff and all those sagas, I don't know how much of an influence they have with cloaks, Also, gambeson armor, the Irish brat could be wrapped around. Yeah, I think you were saying that earlier as well. I seen that comment earlier, but I couldn't react to it because I was chatting away with the boys. But that gambeson with the Irish brat, 100%, I definitely agree with you there. But it's definitely in the world of possibility, especially when we do experimental archaeology. Well, experimental martial art, I suppose you could call it that as well. The only problem is it's trying to find the literature that supports those arguments. I don't know if you've come across anything, Caveman, within the literature, because we do have descriptions here and there of Gallowglass and the various movements that they do, especially from the Tudors. The Tudors, take account of a few bits there and there, here and there. What I need to do is get I've gone through the book of Kearns and Gallowglass. There's another book by Dave Swift, and who else was I meant to look at? But I need to get hardback copies of a lot of that stuff, because I'm taking notes right now from ebooks and stuff, but I don't find, when it comes down to taking notes from ebooks and stuff, I don't think it's the greatest. I'd rather have hardback, both just to highlight bits and bobs and get my sticky notes inside there as well. I love what was it called, recording from hardback for sure. I was surprised to learn I'm not just the son of Ulster, a massive amount an ancient Irish clan heritage, and mostly from Connacht. Connacht by, you're probably related over to my family, so because a good chunk of my mother's side of the family is from Sligo, up around the O'Rourke region for sure. Looks like semi-horse stance, literally, it really is. You can see that spring as well. Because it looks like as well he's taken the back stance, so it's just between, as the Japanese would say, the kibidash stance going into a back stance. Where is he gone? There he is. The Book of Kells Warrior. I love this. I absolutely love just looking at it and taking this on board, especially if you've ever done martial arts that involves various different stances and stuff to get the most out of those movements. You can see him just kind of lunging back like that. In my opinion, this is my opinion there. You can see him taking the neutral stance into the back stance and then stabbing forward. Because he's got the flexibility in his legs, because he's not spending the whole day on a chair, he's able to get back that extra bit more before lunging in for that stab, in my opinion, okay? I think it's absolutely fascinating. I'm not, about 30% Scottish clan heritage. What Scottish clan are you part of? Do you think the Irish short jacket? You see, Caveman, I don't want to say anything on that because I haven't read Dave Swift's book yet. Give me a second there. What I'll do is I'll actually just put up Dave Swift's. If I type in this, maybe it'll pop up. Oh yeah, there we go. I'll just chuck that up there. So I haven't got a hold of this book yet, and the other one I have an ebook version of Kearns and Gallowglass, but I want a hardback copy of it as well. Where are my images? Yeah, there it is. So this is Dave Swift's book, which is, I wonder if I can get, yeah, that's much better. And I'll change the cover because some of those colors and stuff annoy me. The big bright blues and stuff, I'm not a fan of it. And just get my chat back up again. There we go. That's Dave Swift's book, and he talks about the padded jackets and stuff inside there. But as of yet, I haven't read it, so I don't want to say anything about this comment here about the do you think about the short jacket? I haven't gone through it yet, so I don't want to say anything on it until I've gone through Dave Swift's sources, just so I don't get, the leg swept under me. Do you know what I mean? But that's Gallowglass from Western Isles to Ireland. And in that, he talks about, but I think he talks about the leather armor as well. Maybe you already have a copy of that, Caveman. Here, I won't say anything there. Plus, on top of that, watch out there because YouTube is watching us as well. But I won't say anything on that. Do you know? Where are my Scottish clan related to Maxwell, Sterling? Bell. I actually know the bells, to be honest with you. I do know a good few bells, all right. Like, I'll pop that up so I can get into a more comfortable thing. Where my granddad. Where's from Sligo? I wonder if the two of us are related there, son of Ulster. These any other comments I can expand on. I'm surprised to learn I'm not son of Ulster. But just to expand on Jim O'Neill's comment there as well about is Gaelic martial art more like grappling or Greco-Roman wrestling? I would say grappling, to be honest with you. It's difficult to say because nothing is surviving. What we do have, though, is collar and elbow fighting, but that's not until, and Caveman could easily correct me on this one, is if, what was it? Collar and elbow pops up around the 18th, 19th century. So it's a much more later martial art. But I do wonder if it does have relations back to the old kerns, the old cattle raiders. So I am curious and wondering about that one for sure. Like, Clan Donald were kings until mid 13th century, becoming Lord of the Isles after the Battle of Lurgus. Clan Donalds were the boys, because at that point they were spending most of their time allied with the O'Neills as well as they went into the Carrickfergus area. No, I take that back. That's MacDonald's I'm thinking about. It was the MacDonalds and the O'Neills spent a lot of time sieging Carrickfergus in the 13th century, especially going into the likes of the Scottish War of Independence, and then even still further again up to, what was it called, the 14th century as well, during the period of the 100 Years' War. Like, it's funny because they spend the majority of the 100 Years' War sieging Carrickfergus, because they spend the Scottish War of Independence and the opening part of the 100 Years' War fighting the Burkes. So the O'Neills spend a lot of time fighting the Burkes. Then once the Burkes have their own civil war amongst themselves and become, chucked to the side, the O'Neills end up spending a lot of time then just mostly fighting the English and sieging Carrickfergus Castle. And the MacDonalds then, they get involved, from my understanding, they get involved in that, especially going into the mid-eras of the 100 Years' War, to capture Carrickfergus, because Carrickfergus Castle is really important. It was really important during the Scottish War of Independence. And the Bruces do everything to try and capture Carrickfergus, but God, it's a thorn in the side of the Gaelic, both the Scottish and the Irish. And ultimately, it gets back after the Scottish War of Independence under John de Birmingham. The English are able to easily capture it back from the Irish and the Scottish. So the O'Neills, they start going into the 100 Years' War. Once the Burkes are knocked to the side, the O'Neills then into the mid part of the 100 Years' War, just before Joan of Arc appears. And Art MacMor Kavanagh is down in Leinster pushing the English out of it. The O'Neills allied themselves with Art MacMor Kavanagh, and then they spend a lot of time sieging Carrickfergus Castle. And eventually the MacDonalds have to get involved because of the fact that the Carrickfergus Castle, led by the English, keep harassing and attacking Scottish ships going between Scotland and Ireland. Carrickfergus Castle, the purpose of Carrickfergus Castle is controlling the movement of ships going between Scotland and Ireland. So the Irish and the Scottish have to take Carrickfergus Castle. So for them, it becomes exceptionally important, Another very interesting thing as well about Carrickfergus Castle is the fact that Lionel of Antwerp, the same guy who brought in guns into, sorry, not guns, I was about to say guns, brought in the statutes of Kilkenny into Ireland, which starts a whole load of problems in Ireland and starts turning it into this kind of Irish versus English thing. Lionel of Antwerp, not only did he bring in the statutes of Kilkenny, which were essentially penal laws to prevent the Anglo-Irish, who were a mixture of the Gaelic and the Hiberno-Normans, to prevent them from mixing with the Irish and becoming more Irish than the Irish themselves. He brings in these penal laws against the Anglo-Irish, and then he brings guns into Ireland as well. The very, very first early guns that come in. The problem is that they're, from my understanding, looking at the literature and stuff, they seem to be completely useless because they're not even mentioned in the Siege of Carrickfergus. I've talked to a few tour guides and historians about the Siege of Carrickfergus from the MacDonalds and the O'Neills, and they believe that cannons might have been used from Carrickfergus against the sieging O'Neills and MacDonalds. But it was only there to make loud sounds to try to scare the O'Neills and the MacDonalds away. But of course, it didn't work because guess what? The O'Neills and the MacDonalds end up taking the castle. So what can you do? Yeah, MacDonald is, Clan Donald. There are many branches. So they're one of the branches. Fair enough. And eventually then they set up a company called MacDonald's and they make a whole load of burgers together. Right. What was it called? I'll finish up there now because I need to jump into the toilet. Plus, we're coming up to the 2 hour mark, and I think I made a fair bit of ad revenue out of you guys. So, as I was saying earlier, if you're just jumping on now, what was it called? Our next stream. Well, my next stream actually is going to be over on Patreon, which is going to be Sunday night for you guys. Let me bring up that bloody Patreon there. Where is it gone? Oh, did I accidentally delete it on myself? I had it there perfectly, and now she's. Oh, there she is. Right, so this is my next stream. My next stream is over on my Patreon, and it's going to be covering. I'm going to be doing a class with PowerPoint slides and all. I'm going to be covering a class on King John in Ireland. So that's my next presentation over on Patreon. It's about 20 quid a month, and a class every Sunday night. And on top of that as well, this weekend, this Sunday night, it's going to be on King John in Ireland. So if you're interested in that, definitely head on over there. After that, we've got a free presentation back over on YouTube again, same time again, same channels again. And it's going to be covering Dr. Melissa Shields. Dr. Melissa Shields is going to be on, and she's going to be talking about Gaelic and Anglo-Irish clothing in the 16th century. You know, the Tudor conquest of Ireland, okay? Then obviously I'm going to be doing my typical streaming over on my channel, Irish Medieval History. Definitely head on over there to YouTube, where I'm going to be doing my casual gaming streaming and talking about Celtic culture and Irish warfare of the 12th century and stuff, because we're covering Bannerlord. So definitely head on over there, subscribe, and pop in there if you want to chat. And then on the Wednesday night, I'm back with the boys again, and we're going to be covering the Gaelic resurgence in Ireland. So basically everything I just kind of talked about a little bit again, we're going to go into way more detail about that between the end of the Scottish War of Independence, which is about 1320. So about 1320 up to around 1420. So we're going to be covering that whole era of the Gaelic resurgence in Ireland, okay? Then from there, I think we're grand for a bit, and then we have more stuff coming up on the 19th. 19th, I'm going to have, myself and Rachel are going to set up a GoFundMe to cover some 15th century clothing. We want to make some 15th century clothing to do with the Desmond Fitzgeralds, what their clothing looked like during the Wars of the Roses. We need a bit of money for that one, so we're going to set up, myself and Rachel, the Creative Contessa, have a Christmas special then on the 25th. We might do it, we'll see anyway, on the 25th of December. Anyway, other than that, guys, thanks very much. Thank you so much for all the support. And other than that, guys, thank you very much, and